lonesome loser, beaten by the queen of hearts every time. Have you heard about the lonesome loser? He's a loser, but he still keeps on trying.
Not be calling me a lonesome loser. And what time is it?
It's Podblast time!
That's right, it's Podblast time. I'm your host, Chance Bartels. We got a good one for you today, as Steve Harvey would say. We're going to talk about the new Batman movie with special guest Al Hardy. Geez, sorry about the feedback there, folks. And I saw it today. And I'll just say right here, I loved it. We're going to dive in deep into the Batman movie. That'll be a little bit later on. And then I thought about this. I thought, let's talk about movies. God, I'm having some terrible feedback tonight. That are 3 hours in length or longer throughout history. This is going to be a two-parter because I don't want to have another manifesto-length Podblast. I want to keep this to 3 hours or less if I can. Maybe even not that long, because I want to check out another show that I like that's live at 10 o'clock Atlanta time, 9 o'clock Central. What would that be? I guess it'd be 7 o'clock West Coast, Geek to Me Radio. I like to watch that Sunday night, and I want to tune in tonight, but it's Podblast time right now. So earlier in 2022, The Batman was released in movie theaters, and I chose to see it at an AMC theater with a Dolby sound system, which blew me away. The seats actually vibrate when there's an explosion or a gunshot or something of magnitude, a sound effect that is really loud. Seriously, the seats shake, and it's an awesome system. You have to pay a little bit more for these seats in the Dolby Cinema, but it's well worth it. It's better than Dolby Atmos. Any film geeks out there know what I'm talking about. But man, it was just incredible on the big screen. But it's just under 3 hours long, but it flows so well you don't notice the time. And I'm about to call on Al Hardy. I'll give him a buzz and see what he thought about it. We didn't see it together. He saw it separately, and I saw it today. And we're going to talk about that and then some other 3 hour long movies. God, I've got to fix this. Guys, I don't know what's going on with my audio tonight. My levels have never changed, so I apologize. Jeez Louise. Let me just... Damn, do you hear that? I best just go ahead and call my guest. Good Lord. I'm going to go deaf by the end of this Podblast. Before I get Al Hardy on the line, I don't know why I'm talking with a Southern accent. I wanted to thank Doug Barr, my guest last week. We ran out of time. I didn't get to talk about his business ventures. He got into the wine business. Very, very successful at that. Doug Barr, who a lot of people in Gen X will remember as Howie Munson on The Fall Guy, and he was on Designing Women. I really had a good time interviewing him, and I'm so grateful for his time. And I've got some other really cool guests like him that are right down the stretch of the Nostalgic Podblast straight ahead, and I can't wait to get to that. But I think I'm going to try to call Al and hear what he thought about Batman. And I must admit, I was a bit prejudiced going in. I prejudged it, thinking, can Twilight Boy pull off Batman? And he's such a versatile actor. Robert Pattinson, I mean, I liked him a lot in movies that are really deep, like The Lighthouse, and he played Pablo Picasso before. He's a very talented actor, so I should have known better than to prejudge. And it's ridiculous, this audio I'm having, these audio difficulties. I don't know what the hell's going on tonight, but I'm not going to let that throw me off. I'm not going to lose it. I'm going to call on Al Hardy now and get him on the horn and talk about the Batman. Let's see here. One ringy dingy.
Chance Bartels.
Hey, Al Hardy, how are you tonight?
I'm hanging in there. You got a little audio problems?
Yes. Did you hear the feedback? Were you watching?
Well, you got your headphones probably turned up too loud.
So you're the wizard, man. You know all about this audio jazz. I'm just one of your students.
No, you were talking about Batman. We saw him separately. I saw it opening day. I went to the first show, and you're the comic book guy. I mean, I like comic book movies, but this movie just blew me away. And I know nothing about really the original Orange of Batman because I never read the comics, but this movie just blew me away. It's worthy of a second viewing and a third viewing. I thought Robert Pattinson just pulled it off. I mean, he was just terrific in it.
So the length kind of scared me and a lot of people off, but I agree with something you said before I saw it. You said you don't notice the time. It flows very evenly.
Because you get into the movie, it just flows. It's just, I look at it as it's a dark movie. It's gloomy. It's got a lot of, but it's so good. It's so well written and so well directed by Matt Reeves. And Matt Reeves directed the Planet of the Apes movies, but he really pulled this off. I mean, Matt Reeves, the direction and the cinematography to me just blew me away. I just loved the way the movie looked.
Yeah, and this will have some spoilers in it, so I just want to warn people that might be listening in the audience. We're going to cover some ground here and go into a little bit of depth with it.
But it's a movie that it pulls you in. You get so interested in it, and I love the way that the Batman character was introduced. Before you even see the Batman, you hear him. You hear these footsteps. Boom, 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 and then he comes out of the darkness, and it's just fantastic.
He's a vigilante, and they kind of did a take on the real life Bernard Goetz vigilante subway situation from the early 1980s that made news.
In the movie, the Gotham Police Department don't trust him either. They think he's
a freak.
He's just he is a vigilante. He's out to rid Gotham City of its grime and crime, and he pulls it off. It's great. It's great.
They think he's a freak too. They insult him, and there's a lot of corruption in that police department in Gotham City.
Well, John Turturro's in it. He plays Falcone. I mean, he's terrific in it. He's just a sleaze. He's just really good. He's a good actor. He's acted in a lot of the Coen movies, but he's really good. And Colin Farrell is really just unrecognizable as the Penguin.
Yeah, he had a prosthetic piece over his face, so you don't even know it's him. Even the eyes don't look like his eyes.
When I saw the credits, I said, that's Colin Farrell? I mean, oh, my God. And it's just great. And I just spent, jumping ahead here, I love the chase scene in it with the Batmobile. And this Batmobile is different from any Batmobile you've seen in the previous movies. It's just like I said, it just pulls you in and keeps you entertained for 2 hours and 58 minutes. It's just really good.
Man, it is. People that don't know who Robert Pattinson is, like I said, he's best known as being Edward in Twilight, but he didn't allow himself to get typecast, which I like. He did all sorts of different roles, which is smart, and he has the talent.
After Twilight, he kind of ventured out and did a lot of art films.
Right.
He was in a movie with a guy that I think that you worked with, Guy Pearce.
Yes, Guy Pearce in Lawless, yeah.
In a movie called The Rover, which is a terrific movie. It's a little movie you probably never heard of, but it's called The Rover. He was in The Lighthouse. He was terrific with Willem Dafoe in The Lighthouse.
We saw that together.
Movie, but it was really good.
You and I saw that at your wonderful home cinema. Yeah.
Yes. It's a great movie. Robert Pattinson, he's going to. He's going to be in the next Batman, I predict. But he's just a great actor. He's the kind of actor that makes you believe that he's that character. He's really not Robert Pattinson. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's like when I see Tom Cruise in a movie, I see Tom Cruise. That's just my take on it. But I when I watch a movie, I like to believe that the actor is that real person. And you believe that Robert Pattinson is, it's really good. And Paul Dano is terrific in it.
Now he plays the Riddler.
He's the Riddler, and
he looks like Bill Gates, kind of. The way they make him, he looks like a younger Bill Gates.
Well, Paul Dano was actually he played one of the Beach Boys in a Beach Boys movie. I forget the title. Right. I think he played Brian Williams, but he's really good. And Peter Sarsgaard is in it. He's the attorney. I mean, it's got a great cast. It's just got a great cast. And you were kind of questioning Batgirl.
I wasn't. I was so wrong. No, Catwoman. Catwoman, not Batgirl. Yeah. But you brought up something in my notes that I thought of that I just typed together a little review to myself, and they kind of combine to me the characters of Catwoman and Batgirl because she rides a motorcycle on the screen. Anyone listening at fistfulofradio.com obviously won't see this, but in Facebook group, you can see it, and YouTube. I have a picture of Yvonne Craig, who sadly passed away, the original Batgirl in the old Adam West show on her little bat cycle. Anyway.
Well, the movie, the main villain is in the movie is played by Paul Dano. That is the main nemesis for Batman. But Catwoman's in it, and of course,
But she's a good. Again, spoiler alert. She's not really a villain. She's a heroine.
No, she is a heroine. I was mistaken. No, she is the heroine. But Paul Dano he's the villain. He's the main villain as the Riddler.
And Batman was introduced way back in 1939 in Detective Comics, and that's what this plot and story is. It's a detective story like an old Columbo episode, but better.
How does this one compare to The Dark Knight?
I liked it better, in my opinion.
I did too. I mean, I like The Dark Knight, fine, but I just thought that this one was just so different. It's different because it just looks different. The actor is just different. It's just great. And Jeffrey Wright is good. But I rate it high. If you haven't seen it, go see it. And so far, I just looked. It's made $128 million this weekend so far.
How much?
$128 million.
That's pretty good. Is that just domestically? That's not worldwide.
That's just domestically.
That's pretty damn good. That's a good opening. That's up there with Marvel.
Yeah, it actually opened on Thursday, and the first day it made $21 million in ticket sales just on Thursday.
Yeah, I don't know anyone that didn't like it. I have seen some crazy stuff online. But, I think either someone didn't really see it and they're just being a keyboard warrior trashing the movie, or it went over their heads because the movie is well made. It's definitely well made and has a good story.
Movie. And it had to be a grueling shoot because the way the movie looks with all the rain and the water, it had to be an absolute grueling shoot. And Matt Reeves said that when they were doing some of the scenes, it was really cold and outside, and so they had to endure the water and stuff like that. So I know that it was a crazy shoot.
I'm going to play some scenes after you sign off. I don't want to bore you with it. I'm going to play a couple scenes from the new movie, some audio clips.
I want to see it. You mentioned you went to the Dolby Cinema.
Yeah.
Now, what the Dolby Cinema basically is, Dolby Atmos. It's got the Dolby Atmos sound, but it enhances the acoustics using surround. And instead of placing the speakers all around you, the speakers are in the ceiling, and it draws you in. That's what made probably the seats rumble because the speakers were above you.
Right.
But it has 128 different audio tracks and 64 channels, so therefore that sound is going to vibrate that theater.
It shook my seat, as I said at the beginning of the show. You may not have been listening, but I mean, whenever there was an explosion, and what's cool is AMC has a little tutorial before the trailers showing the difference between the Dolby system and a regular.
Dolby Cinema they use a laser a lamp and the projectors, and they have a pair of 4K projectors that deliver the rich contrast. That's why it's so sharp. They're using two projectors to project that image.
It's worth the extra money. I swear it's worth it. And they show you side by side how visually it's better and the audio is much, much better. It reminded me of the old Sensurround that Universal put in theaters in the early 70s with movies like Earthquake, for instance. And I was too young for that. Do you remember Sensurround? Can you speak to that?
I saw Earthquake at the Roxy Theater in Buckhead and Sensurround. And what they did, they placed the big subwoofers in the back of the theater. And so it just shook the whole theater. But it was just a base. But, in the Dolby Cinemas, with the two projectors, it's 4 times higher than the digital standard movie formats. So that's why they charge a little more, because you get a better presentation.
It's a better experience, and it really rocked my world, man. I'm telling you, anytime there was an explosion or anything loud, like there's an interrogation scene towards the end of the movie where Batman's interrogating the Riddler, and he's banging on the prison glass. Glass. Bam! Talk to me! Answer me! And when he went bam, 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 it really shook my whole scene. It was awesome. It really was cool. I've never been to a movie like that.
Robert Pattinson, he was so scared that the movie was not going to do well because he had never done Batman. But he said if the movie flops, he's going to start doing porn.
I don't know about that.
But it's going to make a lot of money. And still word of mouth that people will go see it. I think plus there's no competition right now in the theaters. It's really the biggest movie playing in theaters right now.
Yeah, and the ironic thing is that, and you told me this story, that Pattinson was filming the movie Tenet by the director Christopher Nolan, who directed the previous trilogy, actually before what's his name was Batman. Ben Affleck. Before Ben Affleck, the Christian Bale Batman movies Christopher Nolan directed, and he directed Tenet. And tell that story about Robert Pattinson and his audition real quick.
Well, he was filming Tenet, which we saw that and I didn't quite understand the movie, but he was filming Tenet, and so he told Nolan when they took a break he had to go and take care of business, but he didn't tell him he was going to audition for the Batman role with Matt Reeves. And so he left, and then he went and auditioned. But Warner Brothers, which also released Tenet, releases Batman, and so the executives at Warner Brothers had to tell Christopher Nolan that's what he was doing. He had gone to audition, but Christopher Nolan was okay with it. He said best of luck to you. So, but yeah, he didn't. Robert Pattinson didn't want to upset him, so he didn't say anything. But Warner Brothers told him, and then he said it was okay. And so, Matt Reeves, who directed the Batman, he's never met Christopher Nolan. He says he admires his work, but he's never met him. So, but I'm sure he will now.
I'm surprised that Pattinson had to audition. Maybe it was a screen test, but
basically it was a screen test.
At his level, Matt
Reeves wrote most of the script, and he said he had Robert Pattinson in mind. He wanted him for that role, and he says if he didn't get it, he didn't know what he was going to do. Because he had no other alternative. He said that he wanted to do the movie, but he wanted Robert Pattinson to be Batman and nobody else. He said he didn't screen test anybody else. He wanted Robert Pattinson to do it.
And younger folks than me will remember Robert Pattinson getting his first big break before Twilight in the Harry Potter movies.
Yeah, he was in one of those. I forget which one. I have all those movies, but I forget which one. But he's a great actor, and I can, he's going to do great things in his career. I really do, and I advise everybody to go see it. Have a good time, and I guess go to the Dolby Cinema.
Definitely, that's what I recommend. It was just incredible. Now, remember the scene? There's a scene. This isn't giving anything away. This isn't really a spoiler. Where they have to go to the Wayne Foundation's now closed orphanage.
Right.
And there's these transients, and they're hooked on drugs. What I like is in this gritty story, instead of cocaine or cokeheads, they have drop heads, and they're taking droplets like Visine into their eyes, and it gets people high.
Right.
And like the district attorney's on it, and they have the secret club that the mafia's in. Like there's two levels. There's like above ground and below grounds where all the really shady stuff, prostitution's going on, drugs and all that. And they have drop heads. I thought that was kind of interesting in the story.
Yes, it was. Well, what did you think of Paul Dano's performance as the Riddler?
I thought he was great, man. And it was spooky because when you first see him, he's masked, and you just see this guy wearing glasses, and you can't tell. Not that it really matters, but is he white? Is he black? What are we dealing with here? Who are we dealing with here? He's a mystery.
Well, I think that's great because you don't know what he looks like.
You don't know.
He wears glasses, but he had the mask on and everything. He talks through the mask.
It's like a ski mask. Yeah.
And but when he kills his victims, well, he doesn't kill them all the way. Remember, he wraps their faces with duct tape, which I think is pretty awful.
I'm going to play a scene of that. Yeah.
Yes.
And right out of the gate, this guy's introduced, and someone gets whacked. Pretty much right at the start of the movie, bam, dead right there.
Yeah. It's just I liked it when the thugs on the train attacked this. I guess he looked like he was Oriental guy or something.
Yeah, Asian. Yeah.
That's when you see Batman. You hear him coming.
That's the Bernard Getz scene I was referring to.
Right, and he wipes those guys out. It's just great.
Yeah, and
I knew then when I saw him come out of the darkness, I just knew. I said, "This is going to be good."
And like you said, you don't know the comics. I do, and it's more like the original 1930s. These were detective stories. It's like the Peter Falk Columbo, as I said earlier. It really,
you can think about it. I like film noir movies, and it's got that look.
It does.
It's got the darkness. It's got the rain. It's got all the elements of a classic noir movie.
And I got the reason I brought up the orphanage scene, I didn't finish my point. When he first goes in and he sees the drop heads they're basically like homeless people, drug addicts, transients are living in the old orphanage. And right when Batman goes in there, you hear this strange sound effect. This may not have dawned on you, but it sounded to me like a sound effect in the old Flash Gordon movie for Ming the Merciless's ring. I'm going to play it. Let me see if you can hear this, Al. It's just 2 seconds. Listen to this sound effect. Anyway, I heard that ring. I think it was an homage to that sound effect. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's immediately what I thought of when he goes. It's a spook scene, where like he goes through a door and all of a sudden there's these weirdos in there and you hear this. Whew, it sounded like Ming the Merciless's ring. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Remember that sound effect? You know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah, I do.
Okay.
I do. Yeah, it's a great movie, and the Riddler, he's just a sadistic killer, and Gotham City is run by corrupt politicians, and he just takes them out. I mean, it's just wonderful.
And there's really no politics. God dang it, my levels are all screwed up. Excuse me, Al.
Well, there's no politics in it, but the politicians are corrupt.
No, I'm saying I thought it was well done. No matter what side you're on, I don't think there's anything that will tick anyone off.
There's no reference to me modern day politics, but it's just we have politicians that they're up there for power and money, and so that's basically what Gotham City is run by. It's by corrupt politicians, and John Turturro plays Falcone, the mayor, and he's great. He's great.
And the villain has a clear motivation. The Riddler, he's against basically fake reporting. And liars and lies, and he wants to expose the liars in the story, right?
Well, it's great. I think and you can tell at the end of the movie when Catwoman goes to the left and he goes to the right. There's going to be a sequel. I mean, it doesn't say anything about a sequel, like on the end credits or anything, but on down the line because Matt Reeves said he wanted to do another one.
And speaking of end credits, if your bladder is about to burst because you've been sitting there for 3 hours holding in your pee, go ahead and pee as soon as the end credits roll because there's really no scenes during the end credits of this.
There's no scene.
There's no scene.
At the end credits, you see on the computer screen it says goodbye.
Right. That's the villain. Like it's in the movie, he uses computers as part of his riddle telling stories, and one of his things is goodbye. It's a computer.
At the end, there's a conversation between from the Riddler and somebody else, and that person is going to be the next nemesis for Batman in the next Batman.
And the Riddler's he's like a serial killer. It's totally unlike the Jim Carrey version or the Frank Gorshin version back in the 60s, Adam West, or the John Astin terrible version when he replaced Frank Gorshin in the old 60s show for just 1 2-part story in season 2.
This movie is gritty. It's it's dark. It's gloomy, but it looks and sounds like $1 million. It's great. It's just great.
I'm glad you.
Like I said, I'm gonna go see it again. I'm gonna go see it. I'll check out one of the Big D cinemas.
So the female, the Big D, for those that don't know, has a massive screen. It's like as big as what you call it, IMAX, but bigger.
Right.
Bigger screen. Anyway, the Big D. That sounds kind of dirty, doesn't it? Anyway, Zoe Kravitz, you mentioned her, the female lead who plays Catwoman. Mm-hmm. In case the layman out there doesn't realize, most people know this, but she's the daughter of Lisa Bonet and the rocker Lenny Kravitz. And she was born back on December 1st, 1988. And she's just terrific in this. And we'd seen her before in terms of a superhero movie in X-Men First Class back in 2011 as the mutant with the wings named Angel Salvador. And she goes to the dark side with Magneto in that film. And she's also the voice of Mary Jane in the animated Spider-Verse movies. And the sequel to Spider-Verse is about to be released by Disney and Marvel.
Do you have a favorite scene from the movie, or you just took it all in and liked all of it?
That's a good question. Of course I love the action. I love the scene with the Batmobile. He's chasing the Penguin. There's a big explosion, and the Penguin's celebrating to himself in his car. He's like, "Oh yeah, I got him!" And then out of the flames, you see that Batmobile coming at him, and he goes, "Oh shit!"
Fire, and then the eyes on the Penguin, when he looks out to the rearview mirror, it's just great.
I love that.
They had to do that movie on one take.
You mean that scene?
They destroyed so many cars and stuff in it in the chase, and there were elements where they did reshoot a few little scenes, but Matt Reeves said they did that basically in one take. They had to get it right the first time.
That's incredible. But Zoe, finishing up with about Zoe Kravitz, she's also acted in Californication and more recently in Big Little Lies and High Fidelity. And
Right.
here she's Selena Kyle, the Catwoman, who's more like a combination of
Well,
Catwoman and Batgirl.
you probably see more of her in the future.
She's fantastic. She really is. That reminds me now, I'm going to segue into 3-hour movies because this one's pretty much a 3-hour movie. I think it's just shy of the 3-hour mark, but close enough, right? It's like 2 hours
Right.
and 55
2
minutes.
hours and 58 minutes. But it
Oh,
doesn't
2
feel
minutes.
like it. It flows. I mean, it's just. And when I was in the theater, I saw the first show. There was about 75 people in there the first show when I saw it on Thursday. And I saw one person get up and go to the bathroom. Nobody else got up and went to the bathroom.
I didn't move. I was riveted.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I made sure
But anyway,
I took care of business before.
go see it. It's a wonderful movie.
Okay, so I want to ask you, because I meant to do an introduction to you, and I was so frustrated with the audio glitches I was having as we're live that I got sidetracked. But I just want to let people know that aside from you working with Ted Turner and Turner Broadcasting, specifically WTCG, WTBS for years,
Right.
you also managed movie theaters. You were a projectionist at movie theaters, including one in Atlanta, which has been demolished for church parking, which is it's a travesty. It's called the New Columbia or the Columbia Cinema, which had 70 millimeter.
It had
Now,
a huge screen and would be 70 millimeter. It was fun working there, and I remember we showed Alien there when it came out, and the theater was packed. We had people lined up around the block to watch it, But it was a wonderful theater. But to make a long story short, when I was a teenager, when I turned 16, the first job I ever had in my life was an usher in a theater because I like movies, and it just sort of. I never got out of the house. I loved going to the movies as a kid, and I worked in the theaters and usher. Then I learned how to run movie projectors back when they had film, and so I became a projectionist. And so I've worked at quite a few theaters in my lifetime here in Atlanta. I worked at the Columbia. I managed the Plaza Theater we've been to before. I managed that for about a year. And also worked at the Tara Theater up on Cheshire Bridge Road. I worked at the Midtown 8 that we've been to, which is now, the Midtown 8. And Friday's Plaza. So I've been around. I've run projectors all my life,
do you know when the New Columbia closed? I saw The Living Daylights there back in 1987. I'm old. That was the last movie I saw there.
That was the last movie they played.
Really?
Yes.
Holy
that was the
cow.
last
I went there
movie
with my buddy Jeff Logan back in the day, and we saw that there. That was a great
what happened
theater.
was the church next door bought the property and tore the building down.
For parking. Oh,
For parking, yeah.
I'm not against churches, don't misunderstand, but it just seems like a tragedy. That was an Atlanta
there's a
landmark.
huge Presbyterian church down there and downtown, and they bought the property.
I think then the Fox Theater in the Atlanta, Georgia area would have to be the the best surviving historic movie theater.
Well, I remember when they were trying to save the Fox.
Oh.
And so people donated money and that sort of stuff. But downtown Atlanta, I remember when you had many theaters downtown. You had the Coronet and the Baronet. They were two theaters right down from the Fox. You had the Paramount Theater. You had Lowe's Grand that where Gone with the Wind premiered. There was, you had the Rialto Theater downtown. Now the Rialto is still downtown, but it's a art center now. They can show movies there, but it's an art center.
Would you not agree the Fox Theater is the most historic theater in the Atlanta, Georgia area?
It's the only one left in Atlanta.
Yeah.
It's the most historic. Now the Plaza Theater is as old as, not quite as old as the Fox. The Plaza Theater opened up in 1939.
I did not know that.
Yes. So it's been around a long time.
That's in the Virginia Highlands area. Anyone that knows the Atlanta, Georgia metropolitan area.
Well, the Plaza, it's a nice old Art Deco theater. It's been around for a long time, and so. But yeah, I work down there as well.
Yeah, it smells like it. It smells old. I'm just kidding.
I just don't get downtown as much as I used to since I'm not working at Turner no more. I'm sort of retired, So
you are. Yeah.
I just don't get. I don't get downtown.
Al, I have a question for you. Talking about these 3-hour movies, once upon a time, kids, there was something called an intermission midway through the movie. Now, you remember, I was too young. I remember maybe seeing one intermission, but the movie would have to be rather long. Now, you mentioned that 2001 A Space Odyssey had an intermission, and that's not quite 3 hours. That's only like 2 hours and 20 minutes or so. But it had an intermission, you said, right?
Right.
What are your memories of the intermission? Would they be like half an hour long, 15 minutes long?
Road shows, and they were reserved seat engagements. And that was back before the multi-screens. You had your single screens, maybe your twins, but that's when they didn't have movies playing in multiple theaters. Now you have, it's like Batman's playing in tons of screens. But back in the day, during the road shows with intermissions, you had your movie theaters in most cities were downtown. They were not located in the suburbs. But that's why they considered them road shows if they were over 2 hours. Or actually 2.5 hours.
Really?
But you know what movie was only 91 minutes that had an intermission in it?
I have no idea.
Monty Python and the Holy Grail from 1975.
That's interesting.
It had an intermission, and I don't know why Terry Gilliam did that, but he did.
Well, do you think they should bring intermissions back for these 3-hour-long epic movies like Avengers Endgame, Titanic?
I don't have a problem with it, but I don't see it coming back. No.
But if it was appropriate, of course, if the director and the studio specifically had an appropriate moment for there to be an intermission, it seems like a no-brainer. They would sell a lot of alcohol. Most of these theaters have liquor licenses these days.
Well, but a lot of movie theaters have the dine-in. You can push a button there on the tray and order your food, and I don't have to go get it.
That's true, but it would be more of a social thing, like your former colleague Bill Tush, the cinema that he runs, Sandy Springs Cinema and Tap House. They have a full bar right there, and it's like a social event practically. You catch a movie and drink before and after.
Some theaters have open bars. You're true, and a lot of them serve coffee, and they serve wine, and they serve the booze.
But so you're saying the intermission's dead? It's not coming back?
No.
I wish they would.
But there's quite a few movies. I mean, Once Upon a Time in America, one of my favorite movies, that had an intermission. Of course, it ran 229 minutes. It was a good movie.
Well, you mentioned Gone with the Wind. That's number one on my list of.
That was 3.5 hours.
It's 3 hours 58 minutes long.
Almost 4 hours. Yes.
MGM released it. You have a 35 millimeter print of that in your collection, do you not?
Yes.
Or did you not want that out there? Sorry. Oh, God, I should have.
But I have it on Blu-ray. But Ben-Hur had an intermission. Was one of my long movies. Hello, Dolly had an intermission, and a movie that actually played at the Columbia back in the day when it was called the Atlanta Theater was How the West Was Won. And they played that in Cinerama. It took 3 projectors to show that movie.
By the way, while I'm thinking about it, this is totally digressing. I want to buy a print of Judge Roy Bean. You've got 2 prints of that in 16. Think about it.
I do. That's a great movie. It's on Mylar stock, so it won't stink.
You mean your good one, or are they both in Mylar?
They're both in Mylar. All the release prints were Mylar.
I've got a print of Bronco Billy in Mylar, so it won't fade. Or it won't go vinegar. No, it'll fade.
I saw an interview with Paul Newman, and he said of all the movies that he made, Judge Roy Bean was his favorite.
Now, so the color will still fade. It just won't go vinegar syndrome.
Right. The color's still actually good on them.
Okay. But I'm saying in a Mylar print, no one gives a crap about this. I'm sorry, but just man to man, I want to ask you, collector to collector, educate me real quick. So Mylar, the color can still fade, correct?
Right.
Okay.
But if it's on Fuji stock, it won't fade quite as fast.
Right. Okay, so Mylar can be Fuji?
Oh yeah, George Roy Bean is one of them is a Fuji print, but it's most prints were SP Kodak, which was fade.
Terrible. Yeah.
But I tell you, the worst prints was Deluxe Color. They're the ones that faded the worst, and Deluxe was owned by 20th Century Fox. But Fox did release a lot of movies in Technicolor that won't.
You read my mind. I'm about to ask you about Technicolor. I have a few prints in Technicolor.
Well, it's a 3-strip color process, and the color's processed on black and white film, and it won't fade. It'll last forever. But the only problem with Technicolor is the prints will eventually curl because of the weight on the film, because they layer. You got 3 different layers. You got yellow, cyan, and magenta. You got the 3 colors laid on the film.
And those are chemicals.
That's the chemicals, yeah.
And that's funny, when you talk about how it was originally a black and white base.
That's why if you look at the
soundtrack, it looks funny,
on a Technicolor print, it's black and white because the color is printed on black and white film stock. It was a very involved process.
But it doesn't look colorized. Don't misunderstand out there, people that aren't into collecting film. It does not look. It looks gorgeous, doesn't it?
Right. Well, Steven Spielberg had Technicolor Labs make copies of all his negatives. So, and he had Technicolor prints made to put in storage for all his his movies, so they would last forever. They won't fade.
Incredible, incredible. I'm going to play clips. I'm just going to cover about maybe 11 3-hour movies up until about 1980 or 81. I'm going to do a two-parter because I don't want to have like a manifesto-sized Podblast tonight. And I'm going to play trailers and stuff, and I'm not going to bore you with that, where you may not be able to hear the trailers and you'd probably be bored to tears. But I just want to go over some with you while I have you on the line. Just if you have any memories, because you're so experienced in collecting and projecting and stuff like that. How about Giant? What are your thoughts on the movie Giant? Well, hang on. I'm sorry, Al. First of all, Gone with the Wind, the length was, as I mentioned, 3 hours, 58 minutes, released by MGM. The premiere in Atlanta, Georgia, was on December 15th, 1939, and it cost $3.85 million, but it earned $390 million based on the 1936 novel by Margaret Mitchell.
Right.
So you kind of covered your thoughts on Gone with the Wind. What about Giant, with the great James Dean, Elizabeth Taylor, Rock Hudson?
Well, Giant was Warner Brothers' answer to Gone with the Wind. It was a big epic movie on a grand scale with big name stars. You had Elizabeth Taylor, you had James Dean, you had Rock Hudson, and it was basically a big soap opera.
Dennis Hopper, Sal Mineo, who was stabbed to death. Errol Holloman's in it, but Sal Mineo sadly was stabbed by a crazed fan in 1976 in his own driveway, washing his car or something.
Oh,
Terrible
yeah,
side
he
note.
rebel without a cause, but anyway,
Yeah.
it didn't do all that great a business. It's more of a classic now than it was when it came out.
It did. It cost $5.4 million in today's dollars versus then, and the box office was $39 million. So it did yield a profit. It says $39 million.
I do like though where James Dean plays a guy who has some land and he strikes oil. Finally, throughout the whole movie, he's struggling to strike oil, and he finally strikes oil and it gushes up, and he's got all this oil all over him. And so he goes to the big mansion where Rock Hudson and Elizabeth Taylor live. They're a couple. And he comes out, and Elizabeth Taylor, and he says, he's glad that he struck the oil, and he's bragging about, they didn't give him credit for finding the oil. And then when Elizabeth Taylor comes out, he says, you look good enough to eat. And that's when Rock Hudson goes off and punches him, and they get into a fight.
Yeah, that's a great scene. Yeah, that makeup was really wild.
Scene,
It was released, first there was the New York premiere October 10th, 1956, and then in the USA it went into wide release on November 24th, 1956. And I'll play some scenes in a little bit.
Well, if you follow Turner Classic Movies, they have a movie film festival every year in Hollywood. They didn't have it last year because of COVID, and they're having it this year. And Giant is one of the movies they're going to be showing. Yeah,
I'm kind of going in order of release here. Next was Spartacus, 3 hours, 17 minutes. That was a Stanley Kubrick-directed movie by Universal International, released October 7th, 1960. Cost $12 million, made $60 million. What are your thoughts on that movie starring Kirk Douglas and Sir Laurence Olivier?
I liked it when it came out. I was very young, but I liked it, and I saw it in the theaters when it came out. But it doesn't have the impact for me today that it did back then. Religious epics back then, they were a staple in theaters, but it doesn't have the impact today. I can watch it and enjoy it, but like I said, it doesn't have the impact. It had a great cast: Kirk Douglas, Laurence Olivier, Gene Simmons, and Charles Laughton's in it, which he's one of my favorite actors. But like I said, I can watch it. It's the same way with Ben-Hur. I like that movie, but it's the big biblical epics. I'm not really a big fan of it like I used to be.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to play a clip of Steven Spielberg talking about Spartacus in a little while. And
it's a very good movie. Don't get me wrong. I mean, that's just my personal take on it, and I enjoyed the movie, but it's like I'm not into to those like I used to be.
Did you know?
I don't know whether you're going to mention it or not, but I'll mention it before I hang up that Ted Turner did Gettysburg.
Yes.
And we showed that in 70 millimeter at the Terra Theater on Cheshire Bridge Road when I worked there.
That'll be in part 2. Yeah, I haven't gotten to that point in time yet in today's notes.
Well, it was 271 minutes, and it's of course I love the movie. It's got a great soundtrack to it, and so but it did real well. You know, Martin Sheen, Tom Berenger's in it, and but it's a good movie. They had an intermission.
Now Spielberg, I noticed this over the weekend. I never knew this. He directed the first regular episode of Columbo, starring Peter Falk, and Jack Cassidy was in it just a few years. It aired 1971. It was just a few years before he died in that terrible fire in his home. Anyway.
Yeah, he had a birthday, I think, last month. I think he was born, well, maybe it was January. But yeah, you know, Steven Spielberg did a lot of stuff for television back in his early days.
Night Gallery, 1960. He directed the first Night Gallery with Joan Crawford. Yeah, one of the segments.
And another movie that I liked a lot, that I like to see on television, it had an intermission, was a movie called Those Magnificent Men and Their Flying Machines. Okay. And so it's 138 minutes, and that's a wonderful movie, too.
Man, I'm going to have to include you, if you're available for part 2 of this. Next time I'm going to cover the rest of these 3-hour movies, but I'm going to ask you about one more, and then I'll let you go. I know it's getting late. There's a movie I never really got, and our mutual friend Ellis Hogue liked it. It's a mad, 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 mad world, and that was over 3 hours long. What are your thoughts on that movie? Did you like it?
Oh, yeah, yes, I did like the movie. I just thought it was a fun movie to watch. I can watch that again. It's just even though it's, I thought Mickey Rooney was terrific in it. I'm not a big Mickey Rooney fan, but I liked him in it. Sid Caesar was great in it. Jonathan Winters.
Milton Berle.
Milton Berle. It's just a fun movie.
Buddy Hackett. Yeah.
Oh, I liked it a lot. I rate it very high.
Okay, so you're one of the folks that like it. Cool.
Yeah, I do.
It made $60 million, but it only cost $9 million, so it was a hit.
Oh, it was a hit. And the end of the movie is great, when they all basically lose all the money because they get they get rescued from this fire truck with the big ladder and everything. They all get on the ladder. It's just it's a fun movie. I like it a lot.
Screwball comedy. What about this one? It was a Russian movie. Andrea Rublev. 3 hours 25 minutes. You familiar with that?
I'm not familiar with that.
Okay, it's in my notes.
Another movie that was long, was directed by Stanley Kubrick, I liked, was Barry Lyndon with Ryan O'Neal.
Right.
That was a long movie, so we can talk about that one sometime.
Yeah.
Now, there's lots of good ones out there that are long that had intermissions.
Lawrence of Arabia.
Oh, one of my favorites.
Yeah.
That was Peter O'Toole's starring role. That was his first movie.
Yeah, our friend from the Brotherhood of the Popcorn, or the Cliffhangers, Brotherhood of the Popcorn's a documentary, Woody Wise. That's one of his favorite actors.
Well, Peter O'Toole's great. He was 22 years old when he did that movie.
Yeah, he was a great actor.
I mean, that's just incredible, and it's just a wonderful movie. I like the soundtrack. It's got a great score.
Well, I appreciate you sharing your memories of intermissions and sense arounds, and of course your review of Batman. Sounds like you liked it as much as I did.
One more thing about the Batman, it had a great score. I love the music in it.
Yeah, it's offbeat. It's not like the Danny Elfman Batman '89, Michael Keaton.
It's got this orchestra sound to it. It's really good.
It's great, man, and it's unlike any Batman movie I've ever seen.
It is.
Truth be told, I've never seen the ones with Ben Affleck. So I'm at a disadvantage. I've only seen.
They don't come close to Robert Pattinson's version.
Well, I need to see that. I want to see them all just so I'm well versed in all the Batmen that have played the character. Of course, going back to Val.
I'll go back and watch The Dark Knight at some point. I have that here on Blu-ray, so I'll watch that again at some point.
Yeah, and who freaked me out in that a little bit was the Scarecrow with his hallucinogenic chemical weapons, and he'd make people really be terrified and dig into their innermost fears, and he turned it into a big hallucination, and that was creepy as hell. But who could forget? Oh, I'm thinking now The Dark Knight. All right, Batman Begins is the one I'm talking about with Scarecrow. You're right. The Dark Knight is with Heath Ledger as the Joker.
Right.
Yeah, I know.
And Christian Bale's Batman.
Right. Why so serious?
I just like the sound. I like Robert Pattinson's voice. I just like the way he talks in Batman. He doesn't have this fake gravelly voice. It's just, I don't know. It's almost perfect.
Right, because Christian Bale would kind of go over the line and exaggerate, like in a scene in Batman Begins, like, "Where are the drugs going? I don't know. I swear to me." Just like, wow. Just kind of over the top.
Christian Bale's a fine actor. Don't get me wrong. I just like I like Robert Pattinson's role in it.
That's right. That's right. Well, Al, I appreciate your time, buddy. You're a great friend to the Nostalgic Podblast and a founding member. And maybe next week, if you're available, we can talk about some other 3-hour movies. I'm going to play some clips here in a sec.
All right, well, have a good one, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right, brother. Thanks.
Okay.
Al Hardy, ladies and gentlemen. He's a really nice guy. Again, I apologize about the audio problems. I guess I got my headphones up too high, but I don't think I adjusted the levels. I guess someone's effing with me. Someone busted into my home studio and adjusted the settings. Maybe I'm being paranoid. I don't know. But yeah, the Batman, I'll move on beyond that, but let me see if there's anything else. I told you about the drop heads. That was cool. The drug addicts are drop heads in this movie. And it's fantastic. So, I'm going to play a quick clip here. From the old days, before I get to some clips of the new movie, remember this? Who could forget the classic television opening? I play that because, like I said, in the movie, I'm repeating myself, the character of Catwoman is like a combination of Catwoman and Batgirl with her cycle. And those were the opening credits to season 3 of the old campy Batman show that had Batgirl. She was only in that final season. God rest the soul of Yvonne Craig, who played Batgirl in the original Batman TV show. Now let's listen to a couple clips of the brand new movie, The Batman.
Fear is a tool. But when that light hits the sky, it's not just a call. It's a warning. I've been trying to reach you. Find the gun! This is a powder keg, and Ritter's the match.
I can take care of myself.
If this continues, it won't be long before you've nothing left.
I don't care what happens to me.
It's only gonna get worse for you.
Whoa, take it easy, sweetheart.
It's Colin Farrell as the Penguin.
Ain't you?
Take it easy, sweetheart.
Maybe we're not so different. Who are you under there?
I'm vengeance.
What's black and blue and dead all over? You. Dear God.
I got you! I got you!
That was it. That was the explosion. I got you! I got you! Where the Penguin thinks there was a big semi that collided in the middle of the highway and an explosion happened. And he thinks that the Batman is dead. So anyway, that was that little audio from that very scene where he's like, I got you! But he didn't. And out of the flames comes the Batmobile. Incredible scene. And you know, they dispelled a myth that only bad movies are released in March. Bull crap. This movie is a winner. It is a total winner. Here's another little bit of scenes. Let me see. From the Batman. And here's some of the music that Al was talking about. The bad guy using the duct tape right there. That's what you see.
From your secret friend.
On the victim.
Who? Haven't a clue.
You came.
Your family has a history of philanthropy, but as far as I can tell, you're not doing anything.
I'm just here to unmask the truth about this cesspool we call a city. You're part of this too.
Bruce Wayne. Any of this mean anything to you?
You're becoming quite a celebrity. Why is he writing to you?
The bat and the cat. It's got a nice ring.
A new friend of yours?
I'm not so sure. What's black and blue and dead all over? You. I've been trying to reach you.
If this continues, it won't be long before you've nothing left.
Whoa, take it easy, sweetheart.
I don't care what happens to me.
Who are you under there?
The hell are you supposed to be?
I'm vengeance. This is a powder keg. And Riddler's to match.
We're not so different.
Very enjoyable movie. Highly recommend it. Now, that lends to the question and the main topic of this edition of the Nostalgic Podblast. Nostalgic, however you pronounce it. The Nostalgic Podblast. What do you think of 3-hour movies? I'm going to open up the phone lines if anybody wants to call in. I have 33. I'm not going to go through that many tonight because I want to conclude this edition relatively soon. I'll come back Thursday night with the rests because I want to go into a little bit of depth. Not too much depth, but I want to talk about how much money each movie earned and the length of these movies and kind of go in chronological order. So tonight I'll just stop around 1980. So if you were listening to hear about Titanic, I call it Titanic, a little stupid joke, or The Wolf of Wall Street, we'll cover that next time, but I will mention some of those movies before we sign off tonight. But again, here's a list of some good and bad movies that are 3 hours long or longer with a few select clips of these movies. Let's start with Gone with the Wind. I already talked about it with Al, so I don't want to be too repetitive. 3 hours, 58 minutes, pretty much a 4-hour movie, the classic by MGM. Let's listen to some scenes and music from the classic Gone with the Wind.
Gone with the Wind has captured the imagination and acclaim of the entire world. The screen has never known a love story to compare with this. When Rhett Butler meets Scarlett O'Hara.
I love you more than I've ever loved any woman. And I've waited longer for you than I've ever waited for any woman.
Let me alone.
kiss me once.
Can't we ever forget that day at 12 Oaks?
Do you think I could ever forget it? Have you forgotten it? Can you honestly say you don't love me?
No, I don't love you.
It's a lie.
Well, even if it is a lie, do you think I'd go off and leave Melanie and the baby?
I'm not cornered. And you'll never corner me, Red Butler, or frighten me. You've lived in dirt so long, you can't understand anything else. And you're jealous of something you can't understand. Good night.
It's not that easy, Scarlett. You turned me out while you chased Ashley Wilkes, while you dreamed of Ashley Wilkes. This is one night you're not turning me out.
A love affair you'll remember as long as you live, filled with all the fire and fury of the times in which it happened. Gone with the Wind. First picture to win 10 Academy Awards. The most honored, the most talked about motion picture in all film history.
Gone with the Wind. As I mentioned, originally based on... Oh, Jesus, I think I made a terrible mistake here. It's okay. Originally based on the Margaret Mitchell classic novel from 1936, this epic film was released on Friday, December 15th, 1939 at the Atlanta, Georgia premiere. And it cost $3.85 million in today's money to produce, and it earned $390 million. Incredible. So next, get to my list, is Giant that we talked about. Let me see something here. Here it is. Oh, gosh. Giant. Let's listen to some scenes from the classic movie Giant, if I could get it to go. Crickets. It cost Warner Brothers $5.4 million to produce, yet it yielded $39 million at the box office. The New York premiere was on October 10th, 1956. Released widely in the USA on November 24th, 1956. Giant. And what a cast.
This is Texas, mighty colossus of the Southwest. A land of infinite variety and violent contrasts. A land where today's ranch hand can become tomorrow's multimillionaire. But more than a state, here is a state of mind. Manners, morals, emotions, of people who are often as exhilarating, exasperating, exciting as the land they belong to. Out of this fabulous and tempestuous panorama comes a story of magnificent scope and great personal charm. A cavalcade that spans a quarter century, of stormy passions, deep human understanding, and love. Always love. Always love. Powerful, unquestioning, constant.
I guess you're about the best looking gal we've seen around here in a long time.
Elizabeth Taylor?
I think. Prettiest than I think I've seen down here.
Why, thank you, Jen. That's a very nice compliment. And I'm going to tell my husband I've met with your approval.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, no, I wouldn't do that. I mean, well, no, I'm a rich boy. Me, I'm gonna have more money than you ever thought of having.
Why, that's wonderful, Jen.
You sure do look pretty, Miss Leslie. You always did look pretty. It's pretty nigh good enough to eat.
Wait a minute, Rick. Wait a minute, Rick. Wait a minute.
Oh, you're touchy, Vic.
He's covered in oil, like Al was talking about in this scene. James Dean.
Rick, you should have shot that fella a long time ago. Now he's too rich to kill.
James Dean sadly died at the age of 24. God, he was killed driving that Spider, colliding with a Ford sedan on U.S. Route 446 in California. Terrible thing. I don't think he ever got to see Giant. I think he died before the release of Giant. He died before production was even completed, so he certainly didn't get to go to the premiere. It's a terrible thing. So, continuing on with our list, God rest the soul of James Dean. That was a great Warner Brothers release. As you heard previously, Elizabeth Taylor's in it, Rock Hudson, James Dean, Carol Baker. Oh, I could go down the line here. Mercedes McCambridge, you know that name? She was the voice of the possessed Reagan in The Exorcist. Mercedes McCambridge. And she was in a few of you will know what I'm talking about here, a black and white Lost in Space episode. Dr. Smith was going to marry this woman that she was an alien and her son was a werewolf. Anyway, Mercedes McCambridge had to say all those terrible lines in The Exorcist, but long before that, she was in Giant. And Sal Mineo, who we talked about, he had a sad ending. He was in this. Dennis Hopper, one of the first roles Dennis Hopper ever had. I'm going to talk about him in part 2 because I liked Waterworld. He was the villain in a movie called Waterworld, which was just at the 3-hour mark. And I've seen a director's cut of Waterworld that's longer than 3 hours, and it fleshes it out better, and it fills in a lot of gaps in the story. And that happens a lot, man. An editor can really sink or swim, no pun intended, a movie. When you see the finished product, like the old Superman the movie from 78, there's a 3-hour, 8-minute cut that was finally released in 2018 on Blu-ray by Warner Brothers Home Video, and it makes it so much better. It fleshes out the movie. It makes it better. Anyway, and Earl Holliman is also in Giant. He is a very underrated actor who did a lot of television work, but he started in movies. So, moving on, number 3 on my list tonight is Spartacus that we talked about. That clocks in at 3 hours and 17 minutes, and that's directed by, of all people, Stanley Kubrick. You don't think about him making movies in 1960 if you're a Generation Xer like me. And it was released by Universal International on October 7th, 1960, with a cost of $12 million, yet it earned $60 million. And I'm going to play some scenes from it, some briefer scenes, and the ones for Giant there. And then you'll hear a little bit of the great Steven Spielberg talking about Stanley Kubrick's classic Spartacus. Let's listen here. And it won 4 Academy Awards. Spartacus. In the year 70 BC, Rome, Colossus of the world, faced its gravest challenge.
Have been destroyed by Spartacus.
Spartacus, a motion picture unequaled in the entire history of filmmaking, unlikely ever to be surpassed.
Splice.
In the tenderness and beauty of its love story. Nothing was spared to make Spartacus the superb achievement it is. Neither time, nor money, nor talent. For in Spartacus, you will see the finest cast ever assembled, relive history's most exciting and inspiring drama. starring Kirk Douglas as Spartacus, slave, gladiator, invincible fighter. Laurence Olivier as Crassus, symbol of Rome's majesty and might.
I'm not after glory.
I'm after Spartacus.
Gene Simmons as the slave Erinia, whose body was bought and sold, but whose love enveloped Spartacus with a radiance few men have known. Charles Lawton as Gracchus, the leader of the Roman Senate. Peter Ustinov as Batiatus, shrewd and devious dealer in human flesh.
Human flesh.
John Gavin as Julius Caesar, ambitious staff officer. And Tony Curtis as Antoninus, who loved Spartacus like a brother. In the powerful story of the gladiator rebel who sprang from slavery to challenge the awesome might of imperial Rome.
The symbol of the Senate. All the power of Rome.
I imagine a god for slaves.
Damn Greeks. I'm just kidding.
What do you pray for?
I pray for a son who'll be born free.
Brilliant, compassionate, absorbing. A review from Look magazine. Flashes before the screen during this trailer. Time magazine calls it brilliant. Spartacus. So here comes Steven Spielberg talking about the classic directed by Stanley Kubrick. 3, 2, 1, go. Come on now, this is not my night.
Everything Kubrick had done up until 1960 suggested an artist who ultimately aspired to large-scale, conventional Hollywood genre pictures. Each of his first 4 features had exceedingly eclipsed the previous one in scope and ambition, and his works on Paths of Glory suggested that he had the chops to successfully take on a big, old-fashioned Hollywood epic. For all intents and purposes, Kubrick proved his bona fides and delivered a successful Oscar-winning picture in the form of 1960's Spartacus.
See, you think of him from The Shining. At least I do, or Clockwork Orange.
Will not allow us to escape from Italy. We have no choice.
I mean, this was filmed in 1959.
Rome herself and end this war the only way it could have ended. By freeing
Her Eyes Wide Shut. That was a weird movie.
in Italy.
The seed of Spartacus was planted when screen icon Kirk Douglas lost the title role to Charlton Heston in William Wyler's Ben-Hur. The blow to his ego compelled Douglas to set up his own project to rival Wyler's, one that would focus on the classic tale of a slave revolt led by slave-turned-gladiator Spartacus. He would produce the film through his own production company and take the title role for his own. His choice for screenwriter proved highly controversial. Blacklisted writer Dalton Trumbo, who by this point had been living in exile from the studio system after his outing as a communist sympathizer during Joe McCarthy's Red Scare hearings, sustained himself by writing under a series of pseudonyms. Douglas hoped to deal a fatal blow to the integrity of the anti-communist movement by allowing Trumbo to use his real name, proving himself every bit as virtuous and idealistic as the screen heroes he regularly portrayed. Trumbo and Douglas envisioned the biblical Aristora of Spartacus as an allegory for modern-day concerns, like the civil rights movement and the McCarthy hearings, a tactic that undoubtedly gave the film some much-needed relevancy and immediacy.
I want to thank Indie Film Hustle YouTube channel for that clip. I could have sworn I did have a clip I wanted to play. Let me find it, of Steven Spielberg that I promised that I would play. Let me see. Let me look it up here real quick. And I'm going to do my rant of the week in a second. Spielberg. But I really liked watching those Columbos, the early Columbos. It's on the Cozy channel. And I've mentioned this before, and I kind of screwed up the plug for it. There's a brand new streaming service that's absolutely free called IMDb TV. And they have season 2 of Columbo, the classic Peter Falk version. I think that's the only version there is on their streaming service, along with classics like Dallas. The entire 14 seasons of the original Dallas are on there, and I Dream of Jeannie. I mean, yeah, people are sick and tired of these old shows, but they're uncut, unedited, unaltered. You can hear the end credits. They don't crunch them down like some of these diginets do. And it's IMDb. You just go to, and we're going to talk about also in a moment, want to talk about Pluto TV and the origin of Pluto TV, and that's part of my rant of the week. And I have no problem with them, but it'll make sense. It'll make sense. Let me see. If I can't find it, I'll just save it for next week. Here it is. Spielberg on Spartacus. And then we'll talk about Judgment at Nuremberg from 1961, which clocked in at 3 hours and 6 minutes in length. Now, this interview is from the American Film Institute on their YouTube channel.
Felt it was one of his best films, and I think he sort of disavowed himself of it after the experience of shooting it. But I had talked, in my knowing of Stanley for 19 years, I had talked to Stanley a number of times about it. And I think what he liked the best, and I think what I like the best about that picture, are all the scenes between Charles Laughton and Peter Ustinov. I think that was a duel without swords, and that was about wit. It was about playing chess with a person who you're not sure is your best friend who could save your life, or someone who could condemn you to the cross. And I thought that was some of the most exciting moments in Spartacus, were the one-on-one scenes between Laughton and Ustinov. They were delightful. But of course, you can't beat the fight between Kirk Douglas and Woody Strode, the first fight in the arena, where they're playing in front of Laurence Olivier and Nina Foch, and they're playing. They're not supposed to fight to the death, but they made an exception in this case, and that was a pretty amazing sequence of the sort of long pitchfork and the net against the short sword, and that was a brilliant scene. I think one of the most brilliant things that Kubrick did in that sequence was before they go out to fight, before Kirk Douglas goes out to fight, he is sitting right across from John Ireland, and they are staring at each other because they have become friends. They did something you're not supposed to do, which is to bond. Gladiators are not supposed to make friends with with each other, because you'll have to kill each other. You'll have to kill the other person. And there's a sequence in that movie where they're inside this wooden holding pen, and there's shadows coming through, the sunlight coming through the wood, and they're staring at each other, and you hear the entire fight that precedes their battle. You just hear the sound effects, and you just play it off the expressions of Douglas and Ireland looking at each other and wondering, oh my God, we're going to have to fight each other. And as that is happening, at one moment, there's a tremendous explosion of flesh hitting wood, and the two combatants slam into the pen, which is the one thing that takes them out of their thoughts about having to kill each other. That is maybe one of the most classic scenes in Spartacus.
Steven Spielberg, what a genius. I love almost every movie he's ever directed. Let's see here. Next up, like I said, Judgment at Nuremberg. I'm just going to not spend too much time on this picture, but it was released way back on December 19th, 1961. It cost $3 million to produce, yet it earned $10 million for United Artists, otherwise known as UA Pictures, and they're known for the James Bond movies originally and the Pink Panther series of movies, among other things. But let me find a clip, and then we'll move on to the next movie. But here is Judgment at Nuremberg from 1961. It says, once in a generation, motion picture explodes into greatness. Stanley Kramer's Judgment at Nuremberg, starring Spencer Tracy.
Before the people of the world, let it now be noted that here in our decision, this is what we stand for. Justice, truth, and the value of a single human being.
Where were we? Where were we when Hitler began shrieking his hate in the Reichstag? Where were we when our neighbors were
were being dragged out in the middle of the night to Dachau. Where were we when they cried out in the night to us? Were we deaf? Dumb? Blind?
I'm gonna go the limit. And not you, not the Pentagon, not God on his throne is gonna make you do
Who do you think you're talking to? Who the hell do you think you're talking to?
My husband was a military man, all his life. He was entitled to a soldier's death. He asked for that. That he should be permitted the dignity of a firing squad. You know what happened. He was hanged with the others.
It is easy to condemn the German people, to speak of the basic flaw in the German character that allowed Hitler to rise to power. But at the same time, comfortably, ignore the basic flaw of character that made the Russians sign pacts with him, Winston Churchill praise him, American death threats profit by him.
Must interrupt real quick. That's Maximilian Schell. And people that are around my age, Generation Xers, will remember him in the Disney movie The Black Hole. And also in the cast was William Shatner, a young William Shatner, Judy Garland. God, just a really good cast. Spencer Tracy, as you heard, Burt Lancaster. Just a wonderful film. Here's Judy Garland. Little Dorothy.
Like you're trying to make it sound.
Wizard of Oz.
Did you sit on his lap?
Stop it! Stop it!
What else do you admit to, Mrs. Swan? What else? Hello?
I want that you tell me, was she feeble-minded? My mother.
I feel it is my duty to point out to the tribunal that the witness is not in control of his mental processes.
I know I am not. Since that day, I've been half I've ever been.
Riveting stuff for real. So next up, Lawrence of Arabia that we talked about. What a classic movie that was with Alec Guinness, Sir Alec Guinness, that most people know as Obi-Wan Kenobi in the Star Wars pictures. Let's listen to some scenes from Lawrence of Arabia.
I deem him one of the greatest beings alive in our time. We shall never see his like again. His name will live in history. It will live in the annals of war. It will live in the legends of Arabia.
Who is he?
Tapas!
What is your name?
My name is for my friends. None of my friends is a murderer.
Come on, man!
For over a quarter of a century, controversy has raged around the name of T.E. Lawrence. No man of our time has drawn upon himself so much praise and so much criticism. Lawrence of Arabia, the man torn between two civilizations. Lawrence of Arabia, filmed against a canvas of awesome magnificence.
Lieutenant Lawrence, sir, is not your military advisor.
But I would like to hear his opinion.
Damn it, Lawrence, who do you take your orders from?
From Lord Faisal, in Faisal's tent.
Hailing the birth of a new star, Peter O'Toole as Lawrence of Arabia. What was he really like, this controversial figure who became a legend in his own lifetime?
He was the most extraordinary man I ever knew.
He was a very great man.
And boring.
A poet, a scholar, and a mighty warrior. He was also the most shameless exhibitionist since Barnum and Bailey.
What, in your opinion, do these people hope to gain from this war?
They hope to gain their freedom. There's one born every minute. They're going to get it, Mr. Bentley. I'm going to give it to them.
Lawrence and Arabia. Together, they made history. Now, a gathering of international stars unfolds the story. Alec Guinness as Prince Faisal.
The English have a great hunger for desolate places. I fear they hunger for Arabia.
Anthony Quinn as Auda Abu Taihi.
I carry 23 great wounds, all got in battle. 75 men have I killed with my own hands in battle. I scatter, I burn my enemies' tents. I take away their flocks and herds. The Turks pay me a golden treasure, yet I am poor. Because I am a river to my people.
Jack Hawkins as General Allenby.
I believe your name will be a household word. But you would have to go to the War Museum to find who Allenby was. You're the most extraordinary man I ever met.
Leave me alone. Huh? Leave me alone.
Jose Ferrer as the Turkish Bey.
Your skin is very fair.
Also starring Anthony Quayle, Claude Rains,
The Invisible Man,
Arthur Kennedy, with Omar Sharif as Ali, and Peter O'Toole as Lawrence.
Five years after The Bridge on the River Kwai was released by the same filmmakers, Lawrence of Arabia, which also starred Sir Alec Guinness. Just a classic movie there. So, Lawrence of Arabia, the length clocked in at 3 hours and 47 minutes, released back on December 10th, 1962 by Columbia Pictures. It had a $15 million budget, yet it earned $70 million in equivalency to today's funds there. And as you heard, most of the stars, Anthony Quinn, Alec Guinness, just Claude Rains, who was the Invisible Man in the monster movies previously, Omar Sharif, and of course, Peter O'Toole. So next you had a big epic movie that clocked in at 3 hours and 53 minutes, released by 20th Century Fox, now Disney, back on June 12th, 1963. Cleopatra, with Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton, Rex Harrison. Ah, what a great cast. Roddy McDowell was in the cast years before Planet of the Apes, where he played Caesar. But he was in this movie, and it cost a whopping $31.8 million, which was big bucks back in 1962 when it was filmed, released in 63. What the hell just happened? And I'm going to play some scenes, but it earned, even though it cost $31.1 million, it earned $57.8 million in the United States and Canada, in North America, just in those regions. But rentals earned another $40.3 million worldwide. So it was a tremendous success. I'm going to play a clip of Cleopatra, and we're going to wind down the Podblast. Going to have a short Podblast this time. Next time we'll talk about Kill Bill, and here we go. Here's Cleopatra and other movies that are a little more modern. Never before has a spectacle been more carefully, lavishly, stunningly produced. Life magazine. That's their review.
Elizabeth Taylor as Cleopatra, Siren of the Nile. Her stunning beauty and notorious intrigue turned the tide of civilization.
In attaining her objectives, Cleopatra has been known to employ torture, poison, and even her own sexual talents, which are said to be considerable.
Richard Burton as Mark Antony, rash, impetuous leader of once invincible legion, dreaded adversary on the field of battle. But a pawn in the arms of this woman.
All that I shall ever want to hold, or look upon, or be, or have is here now with you.
Remember that I want you to forget me, please.
Forget?
The passion.
How?
The chemistry.
I can never be more far away from you than this.
Rex Harrison as Julius Caesar, who ruled half the world by sheer might.
Those ballistas need eliminating. Send out a turtle.
But Caesar's dream of conquest included the ambitious Cleopatra at his side.
Do as you say? Literally? As if I was something you had conquered?
If I choose to regard you as such.
Am I to understand, then, that you feel free to do with me whatever you want? Whenever you want?
Yes, I want that understood.
You son of a bitch! You pig!
You will kneel.
I will what?
On your knees.
You dare
Kneel before Cleopatra!
I asked it of Julius Caesar. I demand it of you.
What a witch. I'm just kidding.
I have no son.
I will bear many children. Isis has told me.
Well, start right now! Start effing!
My breasts are filled with love and life. My hips are rounded and far apart. Such women, they say, have sons.
You know that I know! You know that I know! You gotta start effing right now! Bring in the Trojans! Magnum style. Look at the dancing women. She's a little performer right there. Wow. Creeps. The dreaded Roman attack. The spectacle of spectacles. Cleopatra. Wow. Number 7 on my list. I think I only have 11 tonight of 3-hour movies. This one comes in at 3 hours and 12 minutes long. I talked about it briefly with Al Hardy. And it's titled, It's a Mad, 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 Mad World, which I don't get. Maybe it's an age thing, I don't know. And I'm not a young man anymore, but I'm from another generation. But it did have an incredible cast of characters, notably comedians. It had Spencer Tracy, Milton Berle, Sid Caesar, Buddy Hackett, Mickey Rooney, who Al mentioned, Dick Shawn, who was an underrated comedic actor. He was in a Fall Guy. Season 4 premiere, by the way, tying it into last week's Podblast with special guest Doug Barr, who played Howie in The Fall Guy. But there was I'm going to digress a second. There's so much internet BS out there. And all these websites claim that have episode guides of television shows that the Season 4 premiere Fall Guy was a 2-part or 2-hour episode. Not true. It was a regular 1-hour episode. It's called Losers Weepers. And going back to what we're talking about with the Riddler, the original Batman TV show Riddler Frank Gorshin guest starred in that episode, and so did Don Adams, the original Maxwell Smart from Get Smart. He had a cameo, not as himself, but as a character, as a sheriff. And that's a 1 hour episode. It just irks me how on the internet, it's not a big thing. There's people starving around the world, including in America, unfortunately. But it's a 1 hour show. It's not a 2-parter or 2 hour episode, as evidenced by the TV Guide ad. I have every TV Guide ad for a Fall Guy episode, as well as every episode on 16 millimeter film. And it would definitely say 2 hour special, 2 hour episode, whatever, because they had the 2 hour pilot, and in season 2, they had a 2 hour episode called Colt Breaks Out and Colt's Angels. And each hour of that was directed by a different director. Anyway, I digress. Nobody cares. I get it. Nobody cares. But Dick Shawn was in that Fall Guy season 4 premiere. And who else was in Getting Back to Mad, Mad, Mad World? Phil Silvers, McHale's Navy. Man, just a lot of talent there. Jimmy Durante. But let me play the trailer to It's a Mad, Mad, Mad World, and then we'll move on to the next 3 hour movie. This is one, like I said, I just couldn't really dig it. No disrespect to those that do. You know, opinions are like rear ends. Everybody's got one. But let me play a little bit of It's a Mad, 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 Mad World.
A United Airlines jet lands in Los Angeles, launching the biggest entertainment airlift in motion picture history. The world's press, some 300 newsmen from 4 continents, arrive for the Hollywood premiere of Stanley Kramer's It's a Mad, 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 Mad World.
There was a certain amount of money buried down in this park. Now, I suggest that we quietly get into our cars, and then when we get down there, we dig up the money, providing that there is some money there.
There's only one way to figure it.
Buddy Hackett.
Is every man for himself.
And so begins the maddest, wildest, zaniest chase ever filmed, as our merrymakers race across country by land, by sea, by air. For somewhere there's a fortune in buried treasure. Which one of our Mad World comedy stars will be the first to reach it?
Now, where have I always told you that the Smiler hid the dough? Where? Right there.
The world's critics go stark raving mad, mad, mad. The wildest chase comedy on record, raved the New York Journal-American.
Nobody's going to get me up in the air.
A smash. Has more laughs than any other comedy in the history of the screen, raved the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner.
Why can't you have a little confidence in me?
It's a mad, 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 mad world. You can't afford to miss this. Wildest comedy ever filmed, added the Boston Record American.
Help! Help! Reggie, say something.
Everything you've heard is true. It's the biggest entertainment that ever hit the screen with laughter.
Oh, left runner! No! No, no, no!
Wild and hilarious all the way. It's a mad, 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 mad world is everything its extravagant title suggests, says the New York Times. A wham-doodle, humdinger, stemwinder, said the New York World Telegram and Sun. Great Britain's Manchester Guardian applauded with exuberant, exhilarating, triumphant.
What are they smoking or not smoking?
Slapstick, exclaimed the New York Post.
I don't get it.
Everyone who's ever been funny is in it.
Our traffic is so
That's a lie.
Mass confusion on wheels. But Detroit is adroit. What they'll do in Detroit is make bigger automobiles. So be a happy fellow. Be a clown boy. Punch and mellow. Get off the shelf and enjoy yourself. It's a mad, 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 mad. It's a mad,
in Technicolor. Talked about that process earlier with Al Hardy. But I just didn't get it. No disrespect intended. But I do like movies generally that are about a scavenger hunt of treasure. Like Fool's Gold. Love that movie. And It was a more recent movie. And that season 4 premiere, Fall Guy, was about hidden treasure in a hotel, and Frank Gorshin, the original Riddler in the TV Batman, he's seeing his hotel get destroyed when it leaks out that there is buried treasure and cash. And Jimmy Walker's in that episode. And remember the guy in the Doritos ads? Avery Shriver, he's in that. It had a pretty good little cast. Anyway, I'm totally all over the place tonight. I'm not on my game. I'm still reeling from how great The Batman was. I just loved it when I saw it today. But it's a mad world. It was released by United Artists back on November 7th, 1963. Cost $9 million, but it took in $60 million. So what are you seeing here? What's the consistent thing? All of these 3-hour plus movies, at least going back to Gone with the Wind and up to where we're at so far, all were successful. They all took in money. So people, I guess, didn't have ADD as bad back in those days, attention deficit disorder. Or maybe it was the intermissions. I think they should bring the intermissions back. Al doesn't think they'll ever come back. I think it's a great way for theaters to make additional revenue, and smokers and people like that are, sucking down the juice and the vapes could, get their fix or whatever. And then, maybe, I don't know. I think it's a good idea to bring back a 30-minute intermission. That's just me. Number 8 on the list, and we have a dozen. I said 11. There's a dozen movies I'm going to cover tonight, and then we'll do part 2 next time on the nostalgic Podblast of 3-hour plus movies. This is a Russian movie. I don't want to spend too much time on it, and the clip is not even in English, so I'm not going to play a whole lot of it. But it's I can't even pronounce it, Andrea Rublev, 3 hours, 25 minutes long, released on December 16th, 1966 in Moscow. And then it was delayed until December 24th, 1971 for a release in the Soviet Union. The budget was 1.3 million rubles. And that's all the information I have about it. I don't know how much money it earned. I guess they keep that stuff close to the vest out there in the USSR back in those days. Let me play just a little teeny tiny clip of what I pulled for you folks. And so you can hear some of the music, which of course, that's the thing I like about music. You don't need a translator for music. Music is universal. Incidental music, song. Here we go. Let's just listen to a little bit of the music.
А что, верно, Андрей Рублев, а? Все хвалят в голос Рублев. А Феофан Грек велел сказать тебе, чтобы ты был в Москве.
The next one's a classic. The next movie, you're going to dig the next one. Just bear with me on this.
За грехи наши и зло человеческий облик приняло. Что же это такое делается? Всех перебили. Не могу я все это писать, противно мне, понимаешь? Долго так еще будет.
Kind of haunting music, huh? Mosfilm. Moss is in Moscow. Mosfilm production. Production. Right there at the end of that trailer reminded me of in television when David Banner would turn into the Incredible Hulk, where you have like this chorus. It sounded like that to me. What can I say? I'm an old school geek. Next up, this is a classic movie. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm just going to play the preview. This is a 3-hour epic. Winner of 6 Academy Awards, including Best Picture of the Year. In 1974. That's a hint.
The Godfather Part 2, winner of 6 Academy Awards, including Best Picture of the Year. Best Supporting Actor, Robert De Niro. Best Director, Francis Ford Coppola. Best Original Dramatic Score, Nino Rota and Carmine Coppola. Best Screenplay adapted from another medium, Francis Ford Coppola and Mario Puzo.
Mario
Best
Puzo.
Art Direction and Set Decoration, Art Direction, Dean Tavoularis and Angelo Graham. Set Decoration, George R. Nelson. The Godfather, Part 2.
Just a total classic. Classic movie. It's all gonna play, I think. Premiered on December 12th, 1974, New York City. And everywhere on December 20th, 1974.
Drama of absolute power and the men who violate it. The Godfather, Part 2.
What is your name?
Don Vito Corleone and his son, Michael. Both had seen the ones they loved most cut down before their eyes. Both had killed as an act of vengeance. Both commanded the most powerful and merciless crime organization in the world.
Is it true that in the year 1950, you devised the murder of the heads of the so-called 5 families in New York?
It's a complete falsehood.
They would take any measures.
I mean, you've won. Do you want to wipe everybody out?
I don't feel I have to wipe everybody out, Tom. Just my enemies.
Make any arrangement.
Michael, we're bigger than U.S. Steel.
Order any death. To protect the empire they controlled. The Godfather and his heir. Both were men of ice, and both were targets.
They're still on the property. Please stay inside. Keep them alive. We'll try.
Michael! Alive!
The Godfather, Part 2, is Sicily in 1921. And Nevada in 1958. It is revolution in Havana. And rubouts in New York. It is manipulation.
It would be like trying to kill the president. There's no way we can get to him.
If anything in this life is certain, if history's taught us anything, it says you can kill anyone.
It is murder. And it is betrayal.
It was a son, and I had it killed because this must all end.
God. Forgot about that.
The Godfather, Part 2, is the final chapter in the violent history of the Corleone crime family. It is the motion picture masterpiece of the year.
Clocking in at 3 hours and 22 minutes long with a hard R rating. I always remembered it as being The Godfather Book 2, or am I getting confused with another franchise? But Francis Ford Coppola, that's a classic movie, of course. Al Pacino, Robert Duvall, one of my favorite underrated actors. No, I'm sorry, I'm thinking of, Robert Duvall. God, I get confused with Robert De Niro sometimes. I meant Robert Duvall, yes. He's underrated, I think. He's one of my favorite actors. Diane Keaton, De Niro, Talia Shire, before she was Adrian in Rocky. Man, I could just go on and on and on. A lot of good actors in that. Lee Strasberg, Mariana Hill, just a classic. But Francis Ford Coppola has tried to get in the news. He's been bashing the Marvel movies. And, I don't know if it's... I don't want to go there. I want to keep this positive. But he's been saying they're all the same and making all these statements. And I couldn't disagree more. And yeah, I'm biased. If you're watching live or watching on demand on YouTube in the nostalgic Podblast YouTube channel. You'll see all these comic book boxes behind me. So yes, I'm a comic book nerd. I'm a little bit biased, but I really think there's a lot of emotion and good storytelling and good adaptation work in terms of bringing these comic books to the big screen, not just with special effects and cartoon-like animation. I think they do a fantastic job with the special effects, by the way, except for Hawkeye on Disney Plus streaming. That's kind of like it's a TV show, not a big screen adaptation, pretty much. But they've been doing a great job with the streaming shows. Just I thought some of the CGI was very lackluster in Hawkeye, but I digress. So that was number 9 on my list, The Godfather Part 2. What a classic. And these are in chronological order. Some of the better 3-hour plus movies. Next up is a movie called Barry Lyndon. 3 hours, 23 minutes long, released on December 18th, 1975. It cost $12 million, but it made $20.2 million at the box office. We play a couple scenes from this movie. I've never seen it. I've got to confess, I've never seen this film. Let's see here and play this for you. I'm probably mispronouncing it. Billy, this is a Warner Brothers release.
Barry Lyndon, a film by Stanley Kubrick, starring Ryan O'Neal and Marissa Berenson, has won the Best Picture and Best Director award presented by the National Board of Review.
Al talked about this. Al Hardy.
Richard Schickel, in a Time magazine 7-page cover story, called the film ravishing, overwhelming, an uncompromised artistic vision, and said, director Stanley Kubrick asserts a claim to greatness that time alone can, and probably will, confirm. CBS TV critic Pat Collins called it a masterpiece, monumental, a perfect film of epic size. Playboy magazine's Bruce Williamson, a film classic. Rex Reed of the New York Daily News wrote, as an 18th century rake's progress, Barry Lyndon catalogs the rise and fall of a likable scoundrel, liar, cheat, and social climber, transporting the viewer into a world of long ago and creating the kind of magic few movies accomplish and few directors attempt in a lifetime. It is a magnificent entertainment, sumptuous, lush, gorgeous, and haunting, a classic of inestimable value. Liz Smith of Cosmopolitan called it a perfect movie. Beautiful, breathtaking, brilliant. Like a gorgeous, fulfilling dream of life, a dream you never want to end. It is not comparable to any other film I can recall. I ask you to turn yourself over to the experience. Barry Lyndon, a film by Stanley Kubrick based on the novel by William Makepeace Thackeray, starring Ryan O'Neal and Marissa Berenson.
Certainly looks offbeat. Maybe I should check it out, but I've never seen it. But in my research, it's on the list. Now next, number 11 of 12 tonight, is The Deer Hunter, which I have seen. A very disturbing film released on February 23rd, 1979 by Universal Pictures. The budget was $15 million, but it made $49 million. Let me play a clip of that for you in the form of the original trailer. The Deer Hunter. Damn, what a terrible ending.
One shot is what it's all about. Deer has to be taken with one shot.
Blessed is the kingdom of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
You gotta listen to me. You want want to stay down here and die?
Oh, Michael!
I just want to say how sorry I am about Nick. And how I know how much you loved him, and I know that it'll never be the same. How do I know you know where he is? Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. What's the matter with you? Don't you recognize me?
Hated the ending of that. That's the point, I guess. War is hell, and the ramifications and the residual bad effects of it. Russian roulette. A universal release. You know, they had a lot of movies like that around that time. That one clocked in at 3 hours, 3 minutes long, but you had like Coming Home, of course, Apocalypse Now. That was before the 1980s Hamburger Hill, Full Metal Jacket, Vietnam movies. That was a trend, and they were very successful at the box office. But I digress. Got one last 3 hour plus movie, and next week we'll continue. We're going in chronological order here. This was directed by a very controversial gentleman, Roman Polanski. He had a lot of tragedy in his life. His wife, Sharon Tate, was murdered, stabbed to death by the brainwashed sicko Charles Manson clan back in 1969, I think it was. And he was exiled from the United States for doing unspeakable things, allegedly. But I want to play a little bit of a clip from the trailer or preview of a movie he did called Tess. And this was a 3 hour, let's see here. Yeah, 3 hour, 6 minute movie. Let me make sure I told you something right on that. Yeah, 3 hours, 6 minutes. This is Roman Polanski's Tess. And this will be the final movie that we cover tonight. And we'll move on to my rant of the week. Let's see, it's right here. Roman Polanski's Tess.
What was the mystery behind her eyes? What was the secret beneath her smile? What was the shame concealed in her heart? What was the truth about Tess? Columbia Pictures presents a new film by Roman Polanski, based on the classic Thomas Hardy novel, Tess of the D'Urbervilles, starring the stunning and sensual Nastasia Kinski as Tess. She was a poor man's daughter.
I want to take you away from this wretched place. It's unworthy of you.
An aristocrat's mistress.
Why not make the most of life?
I was blinded for a while, that's all.
That's what all women say.
How dare you talk like that? Has it ever struck you that what all women say, some women may feel?
All right.
And a gentleman's wife.
Which are my hands and which are yours?
They're all yours.
She was born into a world where they called it an act of seduction, not an act of violence.
I was your master once. I shall be so again. If you're any man's wife, you're mine.
What she did would shatter her world forever.
I shall protect you by every means in my power. Whatever you may or may not have done, I love you. I love you.
Tess, a tapestry of color and light, of breathtaking beauty, of overwhelming emotion. A story as timely today as the day it was written. In the tradition of the great motion picture classics, Gone with the Wind, Lawrence of Arabia.
That's kind of pompous to compare yourself.
This is Roman Polanski's modern masterpiece, Tess, a victim of her own provocative.
Such hubris. So that was the trailer to Tess. And that concludes this first half of 3-hour epic movies and not so epic movies. I'm going to have some real stinkers next time, but we're going to go in chronological order. So we'll get to the Lord of the Rings 3-hour epics. We'll get to the Kill Bill books parts 1 and 2 and the stuff that you really get excited about if you're my age or younger. But I just wanted to educate you all, if you're not in the South, about some of these films. Now, we'll pick it up next time. Now, time back to Batman. We got to do a hard stop.
Next week. Same bat time, same bat station.
That's right. Mr. Adam West.
See you next week. Same bat time, same bat station.
Let's listen to some of this real quick. Coming full circle now.
Will Robin escape? Can Batman find him in time? Is this the ghastly end of our dynamic duo? Answers tomorrow night, same time, same channel. One hint, the worst is yet to come.
I agree. This was not one of my better shows. You should call it the Pod Bomb. The nostalgic Pod Bomb this week. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, the irony of it. The horror. The flaming end of the Caped Crusader. Can Bruce possibly escape? For Batman's sake, keep your bat fingers crossed until tomorrow. Same time, same channel.
That's right. Now, no disrespect to Al. He was the shining spot of this week's show and his thoughts on cinema from a projectionist standpoint, a theater manager standpoint, and in his view of the Batman, which I also really, really enjoyed. But it's time for Item, my fake rant of the week. Here it is. The disclaimer. You've seen or heard the standard cowardly disclaimer before and during certain programs on television and radio that reads and sounds like this. The views and opinions of this program do not necessarily reflect those of this media empire or its sponsors. Case in point, I was scanning through channels on the free Pluto TV streaming service, and I saw this disclaimer before the Blaze Network, specifically the Glenn Beck program. I was just channel surfing or channel streaming. Now, who owns Pluto TV? Well, Pluto TV was bought by then CBS Viacom in 2019. But I want to go over some of the origins. It's a great free streaming service, but it's now known as Paramount Streaming. And it's an American media division of Paramount Global that oversees the operations of its streaming services and internet brands. It is an online content network for information and entertainment. Its websites and apps cover entertainment, news, and sports, headquartered in San Francisco, California. Here's the origin of Pluto TV, and you can get this, by the way, with a Roku device. You can get it for under $100 at Costco, for instance. And you just connect it to your TV, like the USB port, like you would your Blu-ray player, DVD player, you know, old school, what do you call it? Hard drives, I guess, of entertainment. But this is streaming. You just plug it into your TV, and there's just so much there. I love Pluto TV. It's a great service. But here's some quick origins of Pluto TV. As I said, it's currently owned and operated by Paramount Streaming, a division of Paramount Global, previously named Viacom CBS. Co-founded by Tom Ryan, R-Y-A-N, Tom Ryan, and Ilya Pozin, P-O-Z-I-N, and Nick Grouf, G-R-O-U-F, in 2013, based in Los Angeles, California, and parts of the rest of the Americas and Europe. Pluto is an advertiser-supported video-on-demand service, otherwise known as AVOD, that primarily offers a selection of programming content through digital linear channels designed to emulate the experience of traditional broadcast programming. The service's revenue is generated from video ads seen during programming within ad breaks, structured similarly to those found on conventional television. Well, Pluto TV licenses its content directly from providers, and as of March 2020, has deals with 170 content partners providing more than 250 channels and 100,000 unique hours worth of programming. Its content is available via its website and supported apps. In August 2021, the service has 52 million monthly active users. In September 2021, Pluto TV reached 54 monthly active users. As of January 2022, the service has reached a total of 64 million monthly active users. 64 million monthly active users. Pluto TV launched its beta website back on March 31st, 2014. Repeating, co-founded by Thomas Ryan, former Senior Vice President of Digital Strategy at EMI, the record company, and co-founder of now-defunct digital music retailer Seductive. Ilya Pozin, the other co-founder, he's the founder and former CEO of a venture builder firm called Coplex, C-O-P-L-E-X, and Nick Grouf, G-R-U-F, Nick Grouf, co-founder and managing director of venture capital firm called Alpha Edison. It was originally developed to provide curated channels of existing online content, offering a slate of nearly 100 categorized channels, which is on there now, the Bob Barker era Price is Right channel, for example, featuring content which is owned by Fremantle Media. And their Buzzer, I love their Buzzer network. It's classic game shows and stuff. Anyway, but it's categorized channels featuring content aggregated from various video sharing platforms, including YouTube, Vimeo, and Dailymotion, like music videos on Vimeo, as well as additional content provided through partnerships with original web content services and television networks, including Funny or Die, QVC, Refinery 29, Rocket Jump, and TYT Network. The service was originally owned by Pluto Inc., which during the second half of 2013 and early 2014 had raised $13 million in Series A funding from investors that included Universal Music Group, Sky PLC, I guess that's the European Sky Network, UTA Ventures, and venture capital firms, U.S. Venture Partners, USVP, Queensbridge Venture Partners, and several other outfits that I won't bore you with, including Chicago Ventures, that I won't bore you with those details. But on May 14th, 2014, Pluto unveiled a digital video recorder, or DVR, feature on its website known as My Pluto. Users could record content by clicking a Save Show button that would archive content from the channel as it played. On July 1st, 2015, Pluto TV announced it had signed a deal with Hulu to distribute the ad-supported video content available for free on Hulu's website at the time, including current season episodes of programs from ABC, owned by Disney, NBC, and Fox, recent and older classic television series, and domestic and foreign animated programs. Under the agreement, Hulu handled advertising for content made available through the Pluto website. Separately, in the weeks preceding the Hulu deal, Pluto TV had reached content agreements with AOL. What's that? You've got mail. AOL. Shout Factory. I love Shout Factory. They still make old school DVDs. I'm hoping they'll release BJ and the Bear with the best sources they can find. Shout Factory's great. And other sources, and as well as YouTube content channels around the world in 4K, and amazing places on our planet to distribute their programming on the service. On October 20th, 2015, additional channels featuring content from other sources were brought onto Pluto TV's lineup, bringing the total number of curated channels offered by Pluto to around 120 channels. On May 15, 2016, Pluto TV signed an agreement with Sony to make the Pluto TV app available on the PlayStation Store for download by users of the PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4. In 2016, Pluto Inc. raised $30 million in revenue in Series B venture capital funding. Okay. Let me get to something that's of interest here. All right. On April 30th, 2017, Pluto added a chief programming officer role, appointing Robert Magdalene, who formerly served as senior vice president of program strategy and acquisitions for the E cable network, which was owned by, and I think it still is owned by, NBC, Xfinity, Comcast, NBC Universal. All those entities own E. As a production exec, and he was a production executive for TNT in the past, handling responsibilities for programming and channel development from the company's Los Angeles headquarters. On May 15, 2017, Pluto TV launched a traditional video-on-demand offering composing a large library of movies and television shows licensed from such distributors as MGM, Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, Viacom, Sony Pictures, DHX Media, Fremantle Media, the game show owners. They own all the classic, the whole library of Goodson, Todman, as well as other things. King Features Syndicate. Back in the day, King Features would distribute Wheel of Fortune, Our Gang, which was retitled for reruns, The Little Rascals, Popeye cartoons. King Features have been around for a long time. Wheel of Fortune, Jeopardy. Anyway, and these shows were made available for individual viewing to Pluto users. Variety reported that as of May 2017, the service was averaging 6 million users per month, and as of October 2017, it was rated one of the most watched apps on Roku, which costs, as I said, under $100, and you can stream all this stuff for free. By October 2017, Pluto TV reached over 15 million users. On October 17th of that year, Pluto TV announced it had received a $5 million investment from Samsung Venture Investment Corporation as part of an $8.3 million round of funding raised by various investors. I'm getting to the good part in the rant. On March 15th, 2018, Pluto TV entered into a partnership with SpotX to provide advertising monetization services for Pluto, including engendering sales from media buyers breaking into over-the-top content services. On August 1st, see, I'm a marketing nerd, so forgive me. I know a lot of people are falling asleep at this point or don't care. I'm trying to be educational here. There is a point. Trust me, I'm almost there. On August 1st, 2018, Vizio, they make televisions and the like. You've heard of that brand, launched a new ad-supported streaming platform powered by Pluto TV called Watch Free. This service is built into several models of Vizio's line of internet-connected smart TVs, particularly those supporting its SmartCast operating system, and is advertised as having, quote, an easy-to-navigate cable-like interface, unquote. On October 1st, 2018, Pluto TV expanded into parts of Europe with the launch of a platform on Sky's Now TV service in the United Kingdom, offering an initial slate of more than 12 curated channels. Also in October 2018, Pluto TV picked True Optic to help with advertising inventory. On December 4th, 2018, Pluto TV launched a regional service in Germany and Austria, although a separate collaborative agreement with Sky and the app's content made available initially via the Sky TV Stick. The German/Austrian service initially incorporated a slate of 15 streaming channels composed of both Pluto-exclusive services with German and English language content, as well as channels compiled by third-party content providers. Now, here's where we get to the rant piece. The purchase by Viacom. Viacom's CBS snatched up Pluto TV in 2019. On January 22nd, 2019, Viacom announced its intention to acquire Pluto TV for $340 million. Viacom's plans for Pluto TV included using the service as a marketing tool for its portfolio of linear media brands, including incorporating more licensed content from the Viacom-owned properties, like Paramount Plus. So that would be Star Trek. You see a lot of Paramount properties on Pluto TV for free in various channels, and to serve as a distribution outlet for its in-house digital content brands, including CBS News Streaming, Awesomeness TV, and CNET, expanding the service into parts of the rest of the Americas and expanding its distribution on smart TVs. You don't need a smart TV, though, to stream. Like I'm saying, you get the little Roku device for under $100 and you plug it into your TV, whether it's a smart TV or not. Anyway, the new company, the new Pluto TV, also planned to use the service to upsell its subscription video on demand, otherwise known as SVOD properties, including Paramount Plus, Showtime, Noggin, and BET Plus, directly to consumers. The deal was completed on March 4th, 2019. On March 18th, 2019, Viacom, through its Viacom International Media Networks, VIMN for short, unit, announced plans to launch Pluto TV worldwide. VIMN President James Carell stated that the company believed the global SVOD sector was, quote, becoming too crowded and capital intensive, unquote, choosing to focus on building scale through ad-supported streaming platforms. On May 1st, 2019, Pluto TV introduced branded channels based on Viacom Media Network's owned cable outlets and other Viacom properties, including content from Paramount Pictures, Nickelodeon, BET, Comedy Central, VH1, Logo, TV Land, and MTV. Among those channels is a revival of Spike, as in Spike TV, which was male programming back in the late 90s, early 2000s, which had been relaunched as Paramount Network in January 2018. The free channels are not simulcasts of their namesake networks, as contractual restrictions with traditional pay television providers prevent it from distributing the full linear feeds, but instead focus primarily on archival content, meaning things on demand that you can watch, and series that Pluto TV has acquired from other content providers. Some of these branded services are direct offshoots of their linear counterparts, while others, such as CMT, Country Music Television, Cheer, 24/7, TV Land Sitcoms, TV Land Drama, MTV Teen, VH1, I Love Reality, and Nickelodeon offshoots, Dora TV and Totally Turtles, maintain theme formats offering specialty programming owned by Viacom, CBS, and other program library partners. Are you keeping up? I know, you probably tuned out, but there's a point. So, here we go. On June 13th, 2019, Pluto TV was launched on Comcast Xfinity's X1 cable boxes. On July 1st, 2019, the service launched a Spanish-language programming tier, Pluto TV Latino, consisting initially of 11 Spanish and Portuguese language channels, including 2 sports-focused channels that were previously assigned to the service's main sports tier that incorporate programming originally produced natively in those languages and Spanish dub versions of English and Portuguese programs. That's not the point. That's all fine and good. That's not my rant. Pluto TV's former logo used from 2016 until March 1st, 2020, a variant of the TV dot in the same size as the rest of the logo was used from 2018 until the current logo was introduced. The logo remains in use during ID bumpers shown in place of unsold advertising spots on certain channels or during technical difficulties. On August 13th, 2019, National Amusements announced that Viacom and CBS Corporation, which had split into 2 separate companies in 2005, 5 years after the original Viacom first acquired CBS assets, would recombine their assets into a singular entity to be named Viacom CBS in a deal valued at up to $15.4 billion. Following the announcement, Deadline Hollywood, citing sources within the company, identified Pluto TV as a potential outlet for CBS streaming content. Pluto already carried CBS's free online news service and technology and video game-oriented CNET video. Additional channels from CBS, including CBS News, New York and Los Angeles services, and an Entertainment Tonight branded entertainment news channel called ET Live were added to the service on November 13th, 2019, prior to the merger's closure. In September 2019, Pluto TV became available on mobile platforms in Germany, Austria, Switzerland, and the United Kingdom. The service first became available in those countries on iOS and Apple TV devices on September 6th, 2019, and on Android services on September 24th. By November 2019, the service was estimated to have 20 million monthly active users in that region. On February 3rd, 2020, it never ends, does it? It never ends, this my origin of Pluto TV, but it's almost, we're at the home stretch here. On February 3rd, 2020, Viacom CBS announced that Pluto TV would launch in parts the rest of the Americas by the end of March, offering 17 channels available in Spanish and Portuguese at launch. Additional channels would be added on a monthly basis, with more than 80 channels expected to be available by the end of 2020. Along with the content carried by CBS, by Viacom CBS Networks International, owned local versions of its corporate parent's U.S. media properties. Co-owned Argentinian network Telefe and, oh God, I can't pronounce this, Porta dos Fundos would also provide content for the service. The service was expected to launch in Brazil in December 2020, but was anticipated and was launched on November 17th, 2020. On February 20th, 2020, my sister's birthday, Viacom CBS estimated that Pluto TV generated a monthly average of 22 million viewers in the fourth quarter of 2019, with expectations of its user base reaching 30 million monthly viewers by December 2020. The company also announced that Pluto content would be incorporated into a revamped version of CBS All Access, which would also add content from Viacom CBS domestic media network cable providers such as Paramount Pictures and CBS Television Distribution. Viacom CBS CEO Bob Bakish stated that Pluto TV, which will remain a free standalone offering, can I get that in writing, please, would be a part of the company's refocusing on 3 core streaming services alongside the subscription-based CBS All Access and Showtime's over-the-top service, which would act as its mid-level and premium offerings, and which Pluto will also be used to upsell, along with Viacom CBS's other niche streaming platforms. In January 2020, Pluto TV unveiled a new logo. Okay, no one cares about that. On July 9th, 2020, the service launched an app for Virgin Media customers in the United Kingdom. On October 8th, 2020, Viacom CBS announced it would launch Pluto TV in Spain, Italy, and France with 40 channels and thousands of hours of on-demand content. On July 17th, 2021, Pluto TV added several new channels, including News 12 New York, Pluto TV Home, and Professional Bull Riders Ride Pass. A deal made between Pluto TV and PBR allowed for Pluto TV to be the exclusive home to Ride Pass content. That's not the rant. Here comes the rant. On September 29th, 2021, Pluto TV's Paramount, Viacom CBS agreed to pay $3.5 million and enter into a consent decree with the FCC because Pluto failed to include captions in streamed programming that had previously been broadcast with captions on television. The FCC Federal Communications investigation revealed that Pluto did not enable the delivery of captions provided by the programmer on numerous online platforms that carry Pluto TV, and it did not implement certain closed captioning functionalities, and did not make contact information for closed captioning complaints available to viewers. Under FCC rules, all non-exempt full-length video programming delivered over the internet must be closed captioned if the programming had previously been shown on television in the U.S. with captions. On November 29th, 2021, Viacom CBS announced that Pluto TV would launch in Sweden, Norway, and Denmark, and by 2022, as part of a joint venture with Nordic Entertainment Group, this will phase out the company's AVOD service via free upon launch. And on February 16th, 2022, Pluto TV's parent company, Viacom CBS Streaming, was renamed Paramount Streaming, in line with rebranding of parent company CBS Viacom to Paramount Global. Okay, so here's the rant. Now, you can see the writing on the wall. If there's a disclaimer, the views and opinions of this program do not necessarily reflect this media empire or its sponsors. Why isn't there a disclaimer before shows like The View, which is owned by Disney, a competitor of this entity? Why isn't there a disclaimer, though, before CBS Evening News? Those are opinionated shows, are they not? I guess the answer is that the echo chamber tilts one way only. The way that does reflect their views and opinions. I'm all about research, okay, and free speech and embracing everyone's opinions as long as it doesn't infringe on my life and my rights. Either there should be disclaimers before every news opinion show, or there should be none at all. That's my opinion. Just saying. And that's why I wax nostalgic, getting back to nostalgia, for the news services of the past with the Walter Cronkites, where every side was presented. Rant over. I don't know why they only have disclaimers before certain shows and not others. I think they're going to phase out the Blaze and other outlets like that. I hope not. But the cool thing is the Blaze is like a subscription service, and you can get it for free on Pluto TV. Anyway, rant over it. Item. Disney does not yet own DC Comics, the Powerpuff Girls, Hershey Chocolates, Frito-Lay, or Coca-Cola. Now, whoa. Time for another weekly feature, and then I need to sign off because my friend James Enstall is going to start his live show on a major CBS radio station in St. Louis, Missouri. It's called Geek to Me Radio. It's on all of social media. I want to tune into it too. So I've gone a little longer than I wanted to tonight, but I want to play this for you. It's part of our weekly feature. I'm going to 86 the birthdays this time, but I will feature one gentleman who died before I sign off here. That was a lot of information to absorb. Rewind it, if you will. I mean, I think it's important. You know, I think Pluto TV, the thing is, things get ruined with the internet, man. I remember when there was no tax on eBay. God, why does the government have to interfere with everything cool in our lives? I just don't understand. I don't understand.
This is Jeopardy!
Wait. Okay, I'm running out of time. I'm just going to say there is no Jeopardy update for the week. I just like that classic intro from 1984 to like 1991. Looking forward to Mayim returning as the host of the regular nighttime Jeopardy after the college tournament, which aired on ABC, owned by Disney, which I thoroughly enjoyed. So hopefully she'll be back soon. It's been Ken Jennings hosting, and I just fast forward to the end when he's hosting. He irks me. And then the question of the week I posed, I'll save this for next time too. I asked, what are your favorite memories of your grandparents? And I got some good responses, but some wanted to be kept private, so I will honor, of course, the wishes of anyone in the audience that doesn't want to engage that, but I do want to acknowledge the passing of this gentleman. Let me cue something up for you now. I think I have it here. Yep, got it. We're going to belay birthdays for this edition of the Nostalgic Podblast in the interest of time. Item, I do want to mention that Johnny Brown passed away, and rest in peace to Johnny Brown, who most people knew as the character Bookman, the superintendent in the Good Times universe, part of Norman Lear's family of shows, of course. And before that, he was on Laugh-In. a variety comedy show that I loved with the Fun Couple, and there's Lily Tomlin and Richard Dawson and Joanne Worley and Goldie Hawn. She got her big break on Laugh-In. Anyway, but we're talking about Johnny Brown here. He was born on Friday, June 11th, 1937 in St. Petersburg, Florida. Johnny sadly passed away at the age of 84 on Wednesday, March 2nd, 2022. He always had a great smile, you know, and he had a twinkle in his eye and a Twinkie in his pocket. Rest in peace. Let's listen to Johnny in his own words briefly, and then I got one other thing for you, and then we'll say goodnight. Rest in peace, Johnny Brown. Kidding about the Twinkie. He was kind of a portly guy. It's just a joke. I mean, no disrespect. Twinkling in his eye and a Twinkie in his pocket. Yeah, and you're like, I heard you. It wasn't funny.
Hiya, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Stanley Director Show. My guest, Johnny Brown, is one of the most versatile personalities around. You've seen him on Good Times, on Laugh-In. His talents include singing, mimicry, comedy, dancing, acting, songwriting, and screen and television writing. Johnny made his Broadway acting debut with Sammy Davis Jr. in Golden Boy.
I didn't know that.
He began his career as a nightclub singer and recording artist for Columbia and Atlantic Records. A few years back, he appeared on the stage again with Jennifer Holliday in the hit musical The Gospel Truth. He went on to win the coveted NAACP Theater Award for Best Actor. Johnny Brown, I ask you, where did you get all of this talent? And would you mind spreading some this way over here, huh?
I don't know. Well, everything gets what I have. But to tell you I lost a son, I lost a son.
Godfather thing. I didn't know. I guess I was just blessed. When I was small, I think most kids say they don't know what they want to do. I think when I was small, I knew exactly what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
When I was in school, I was always in the plays because I had a big mouth. I could enunciate. You could hear me all over, all over the auditorium. I could always sing, and I never really remember being an amateur.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess, that as the years went by, things, being around certain venues, you pick up things.
Mm-hmm.
You don't go to school for them. I never studied voice until I was, about 19 or 20 years old, and then I started studying classical music.
Mm-hmm.
But everything else was on-the-job training.
Uh-huh.
Like when I did my first Broadway show, I had never gone to a Broadway show. I had never seen a Broadway show.
Mm-hmm.
I was aware of Broadway, but I had no aspirations of being in a Broadway show. But I had good timing from my nightclub experience.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And as the years would go by, like when I was a singer, a young kid, a singer in a band, I used to stand and watch the drummer.
Uh-huh.
Every night I would stand there and I watched the drummer and I said, I can do that.
Uh-huh.
I can do that. So the first time I had a chance to sit on the drums, I had all the coordination together because I had watched. But back in those days, you learn by watching, basically by watching. You maybe took, it's like dancers years ago when Sammy Davis was a dancer. They watched because Sammy had no education as far as academics or anything like that. When other kids were in school, he was dancing, you know?
Right.
And you, being around the stage, backstage in the wings, you watch and you learn. And that's how you, over the years, you pick up things. So it's not, because I used to always tell kids, show business is not like going to college. There's no graduation, there's no placement. Like being in a law firm or something like that. It's all whatever you can learn, whatever you can pick up along the way. So I think everything that I've done in the business, I've been fortunate enough to do it well and just focus. Whatever you do, I think you must focus on. Whether you're playing basketball or baseball, when you're standing up there to hit that ball, you got to focus.
Yeah, but doing a Broadway show with somebody who is a giant like Sammy Davis Jr., didn't that intimidate you at all in any way?
No, I guess maybe it should have. But when you're young, you're crazy anyway. You're ready to try anything. I guess it should have. I must tell you this. I mean, the whole time I worked with him, I was in awe of him.
Mhm.
I mean, I had a 30-year relationship with Sammy Davis. I met him in 1961. 1964, I did my first Broadway show with him. 65, I did my first film with him. And I must say, I guess he was an inspiration.
Mhm.
He was an inspiration, and I was aware of Sammy Davis. And I guess at that time, he was an idol. I never thought about it. In retrospect, you know, I said, well, I guess Sammy was my idol because he did all the things that I wanted to do. I wanted to be the well-rounded, complete entertainer. I didn't just want to sing or tell a joke because myself, when I sit in an audience and a performer walks on stage and he tells a joke, and in my mind I'm saying, what else can he do? You know, if it's a singer, I want to know what else can they do? A dancer, what else can they do? And so consequently, this was my aim, to be the well-rounded performer, watching Sammy. And during the years that I used to work in the Catskills.
Oh, you worked the Borscht Belt.
Oh, yes,
Hey,
yes,
right,
with all my mishpucha up there. And I had to learn to do a lot of different things because during the summer months, they used to have a singer, a comedian, and a dance act.
Right.
Now, in the winter, the hotels that open in the winter, they had less people. You know, they had smaller population.
Right.
So they needed a performer that could come in and do an hour, but could be versatile. So fortunately, it kept me working because I could dance, I could sing, I could tell jokes and do impressions. So they had 3 acts in one, you know, so it kept me busy, kept me working. But I've just been very fortunate enough to, I guess, to dispel the myth that people are nothing or they can't do. Because I honestly believe if you put your mind to it, you can do anything you want to.
Yeah, but I mean, you
But you got to make that first step.
True, but I mean, who inspired you when you were a little kid? If
Before Sammy,
yeah,
I have no idea. I really don't know where it came about. I mean, even as I sit here and I think and I'm trying to answer the question, until Sammy, which was later on, I don't know. I don't know why I wanted to sing. I don't know how I knew how to sing. Those things I have no idea because at that time there was nobody in my family, my immediate family, that was in the business. I mean, I found out years later that there were people in the business that, you know, not of any significance. But I have no answer. I mean, I am really floored right now. When you ask me a question like that, I really can't answer because I don't know where it started.
Right.
I remember as a kid taking a cigar box and a ruler and cutting a hole and putting rubber bands on it to make like a little guitar.
Is that right?
Yeah. And it had no melody. It was rubber bands. But I still use it to sing and to prepare myself for working in front of a microphone. And like I said, I don't know where it came from because nobody in my family was in the business.
Maybe it's something that you have to
It
say.
just, you got to say, it's got to be a blessing from God, you know, because I feel like that God blesses everybody, gives everybody a talent. I mean, why would he love me any more than you, that he would give me something? So everybody has a talent, whether they use it or not. You know, it's ridiculous to live on this earth and to die and not do anything. And everybody's given a talent. So I guess that was mine, you know. I wanted to play basketball, you know. But
well, you were a boxer too.
Yeah, I boxed, you know. I boxed, yeah.
Thank God you gave it up.
Yeah, well, my mother didn't want me to do it. You know? And then the political aspects of boxing, I didn't want any parts of. So I said, well, I'll go with the show business. You know?
Well, what drew you out to L.A.?
I came out to Los Angeles in '69 to do a film that Neil Simon wanted me to do a part in a movie, The Out of Towners.
Oh, yeah.
And it was a small part. It was a waiter on the train, but he wanted me to do it. And I came out, and I stayed here just for 1 week. And within a week's time, I found an agent. I had a meeting with Ethel Wynett, who was the head of casting at CBS at that time.
Right.
And by the time I got back to New York, I had a series. You know, and just one thing led to the other, you know.
So you gave up the pace of Manhattan?
Yeah, I gave up New York.
Hubbub.
I fell in love with the weather. First of all, I found paradise. I said, choose. I found a place where flowers grow 365 days a year, beautiful flowers and grass. And that's what happened, you know.
Well, you're very fortunate that It happened that way.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
many
yeah.
people, they kind of come out here just...
And nothing happened, yeah. But I've been fortunate. I came out and I did, and within an amount of time, I was a regular on 5 television series. I was on the Leslie Adams show at CBS, and that was dropped, and I went back to New York, and by the time I got back to New York, the Laughing people called me, which Sammy Davis, once again, my surrogate father, and my friend and my mentor.
Right.
I was one of Sammy's proteges, along with Lola Falana, the First Lady of Las Vegas,
Right.
and a very talented choreographer who we lost a couple of years ago by the name of Lester Wilson. We were 3 of Sammy's proteges. And Sammy was the type of person to just pick up a telephone. He didn't tell you what he was going to do. He didn't brag about it. He didn't boast that I did this for you. He did it.
Right.
And at the end of the '69 season, I get a call to do the show Laugh-In. Now, I never find out till a year later that Sammy was responsible for it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he had dinner with Rona Martin, and at that particular time, they said, we're looking for new faces, and Sammy, without batting an eye, said, get Johnny Brown. That's the way it happened.
Johnny Brown, you have such a diversified career. Let me ask you a simple thing. Who's your favorite actor?
Oh, my goodness. Well, there's so many actors that I like. And the reason I like so many actors is because different actors have different styles. That's why when you say the best actor, that is something that is hard for me to get with, because everybody has a different style. Right. It's like you say, who's the greatest catcher or the greatest basketball player? Everybody has a different style. But one of my favorite actors, I would have to say, was Clint Eastwood.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Clint Eastwood. I met Clint Eastwood. As a matter of fact, I met him at Sammy's house. And I've seen all his pictures, and there's just something about his acting that I happen to like. As a matter of fact, I'm thinking about writing him a letter and saying, listen, I'm your oldest fan. I'm getting older, and nobody sent me out for your pictures. You got to put me in one of your pictures before I get too old. But I would love working with Clint Eastwood.
Well, you know, that brings me to another question, which I want to ask you. If you had the opportunity to play a particular part, a role, we'll say, that has already been performed on the screen, which part would you have liked to have played?
Now, I got an answer for that.
Okay.
And this is going to blow you away. I would love to do a remake of The Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Hey.
I would love to do that, the part that
Charles
Lawton played.
Sure.
Yeah. I would love to do that. That I'm a character actor. I'm not your matinee idol. And character actors have to be very careful about the parts they choose, or you know, about a part that can catapult them into stardom.
Right.
That's the type of role that could do it. I think to update that, I thought of it either as a musical, and at one time...
that is a wonderful idea.
It is, because it hasn't been done, and there's so many aspects to do that you can update it. But I think that's one of the roles I would love to do.
Rest in peace, Johnny Brown. And there's more to this interview on YouTube if you want to check it out. The YouTube channel is Stanley Director with a Y. Director spelled with a Y. D-Y-R-E-C-T-O-R. Stanley, S-T-N-L-E-Y, Director. He conducted that interview, and it's on his YouTube channel, and I thought it was a really interesting interview. But another character actor is gone, unfortunately. It is gone. I better sign off. I don't want to... Let me see here. Wait a minute. Got one more quick thing. See if I can get this to work this time. Shall we play a game for more games? I just have a couple quick movie taglines for you in our tagline game, and then we'll sign off. These are movie taglines, as I just said. So I name the tagline, and you try to guess the movie. Tagline. Quote, 50 million people watching, but no one saw a thing. Curious. Again, the tagline is 50 million people watching, but no one saw a thing. That was from the movie Quiz Show, about the real-life scandals of the 1950s. And of all people, Patty Duke, she testified before Congress, I think it was, when she was a little girl after being on, what was it, the $50,000 question? Anyway, and it was a good movie. Now, let's see. Tagline, his story will touch you, even though he can't. His story will touch you, even though he can't. That was Edward Scissorhands. Weird movie. And let's see what else we got here on the taglines. Oh, I think I already said that one last time. For anyone who has ever wished upon a star. For anyone who has ever wished upon a star. That's Pinocchio, the classic Disney Pinocchio. And let me get one more. Midnight never strikes when you're in love. Another Disney classic, Cinderella. Anyway, I do appreciate Al Hardy reviewing The Batman. That was a lot of fun talking movies with you and talking about movie intermissions, which I wish they would bring back to movie theaters. Thanks for that. Thanks for everyone out there that listened on fistfulofradio.com or watched on demand on YouTube and the Nostalgic Podblast YouTube channel or on Apple or any other platforms we're at. And we'll be back, unfortunately, Thursday night to talk about more of these 3-hour movies, some more familiar ones and more fan favorites. I talked about the earlier movies that may not have been of interest to you, but I'm an educational show. I want our audience, P-O-D, not P-O-T-T-Y. Our audience is an educated one, and I do appreciate everyone who took the time to check out this week's show. So, going to sign off. I'm Chance Bartels, your host of the Nostalgic Podblast. Have a great week, everybody, and thank you so much for tuning in. We'll catch you next time on the Nostalgic Podblast. And this one was not one of my favorites, I'll just be honest with you. Because of me. The beginning was fine with Al, but man, talk about a dry show. Have a great week, everybody.